My fiancé has been pursuing my best friend for 10 years. He changed his major for her, drank himself into a stupor over her, and secretly wore matching couple outfits with her. He even agreed to date me on a whim, out of spite. It's so childish for a business tycoon. I opened my eyes and was 16 again. I went straight to my dad and said, I want to transfer schools. If I get tangled up in a love triangle all over again, I'd have to be an idiot. 1. Jiangxi. Why are you transferring schools all of a sudden? I turned around to see my younger, red-haired best friend Li Muning tugging at my sleeve. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Do you even consider me a friend? You promised you'd stay with me until senior year. How can you go back on your word? I said apologetically. Muning, my parents are changing jobs. Li Muning pouted. What am I supposed to do if you leave? I won't have anyone to tutor me or let me copy homework anymore. Please don't go. Okay, I'll buy you bubble tea. I coldly pulled my hand back. Sorry. Li Muning lowered her gaze. Will you come back? Or you could give me your address, and I'll come visit you. We'll talk about it later. Just then, a voice came from not far away. Aining, haven't you learned your lesson yet? She doesn't consider you a real friend. Is what Yunfan said true? Li Muning asked me, her voice laced with hurt. You're overthinking it. The teacher needs me, so I'm heading out first. Before leaving, I glanced at Yunfan standing in the shade of the tree, his jacket slung over his left shoulder, joking around with a careless air. When he noticed me looking, his eyes instantly darkened. They were cold, devoid of any trace of warmth or friendliness. Could it be that he was reborn too? The loss of both parents left Yunfan with a timid disposition, so much so that he only dared to express his affection in secret, in order to win over Li Muning without raising suspicion. He treated everyone with equal courtesy, including me, Li Muning's best friend, but I was too young back then to see the truth beneath the surface. A young girl's heart first stirred, and she gave it away completely, encouraged by Li Muning. I confessed to Yunfan after getting drunk. I don't quite remember Yunfan's expression that night, only Li Muning's excited applause. Say yes, Yunfan, if you don't agree, then we can't be friends anymore. Yunfan looked deeply at Li Muning. Aining, do you really want me to say yes? I felt something was off, but I'd had too much to drink and couldn't think straight. Li Muning nodded nonchalantly. Of course, you're both my friends. I wish you all the happiness. Alright. And just like that, I muddled through 5 years with Yunfan. For those 5 years, I believed Li Muning and Yunfan never crossed any lines. They were just ordinary friends. It wasn't until that night, when Li Muning's car crash made headlines, too, I asked my advisor for leave and rushed to the hospital, only to find my supposedly out-of-town fiancé lying in the bed next to my married best friend, on 2 hospital beds. They gazed at each other, their hands clasped tightly, like lovers torn apart yet stubbornly clinging to eternity. Yunfan, who never showed his emotions, felt his eyes redden with pity. Aining, I promised I would protect you forever. I will not break my promise to you. The instrument beeped rhythmically as wind and rain lashed against the window. Tears finally streamed down Li Muning's beautiful face, as if she had found her place of peace. Yunfan, it took a brush with death for me to realize you have a place in my heart. Back then, I was young and foolish, always wanting to pick fights with you, pushing you toward someone else. It wasn't until the car accident, when you shielded me, that I finally understood your so-called strategy of protection was real. Later, Yunfan was discharged from the hospital and went home to pack his things. He didn't even offer me an explanation. I asked him bitterly, if your goal was to win over Li Muning, then why were you ever kind to me? Yunfan, what on earth did I mean to you? He pushed me away indifferently, as if the very sight of me disgusted him. Just your bad luck. His 10 years with Li Muning, 5 years with me. Turns out I was the unlucky one all along. I should have known. Yunfan would change his major on a whim and neglect his studies, all just to pursue Li Muning. Li Muning comes from a wealthy family. No matter what she does, her parents will always bail her out. But I couldn't. Being friends with Li Muning got me labeled a bad student. Dating Yunfan made me lose myself. In my past life, I shouldn't have offered Li Muning a sanitary pad, shouldn't have accepted her offer to buy me bubble tea, and most of all, shouldn't have played along with their little game. The worst part is, I never even saw that Yunfan had feelings for Li Muning. Had I known, I wouldn't have let my feelings run wild, much less made a fool of myself with a drunken confession. It was a mistake to start this whole absurd affair, even with a second chance. Who can guarantee that knowing the answers will win you the championship? Keeping my distance is the best clumsy solution. You too can take your time with this little game of conquest. 3. After the final class, I packed my things and left the school I'd attended for half a year. I felt not a shred of nostalgia, because I knew I was heading toward a new chapter in my life. I walked to the school gate. Wait, He Yinfan suddenly called out to me. I didn't look back. Jiangxi, I told you to wait. Why are you walking away? You're just as annoying as you always were. I turned around, my gaze calm. As annoying as what? Never mind, he rubbed his nose awkwardly. I have something to say to you. Alright, go ahead. He Yinfan scanned the room and said, since you're transferring schools, you should stop contacting A Ning. Don't think I don't know what you're up to. You're just trying to climb the social ladder. You should just focus on your studies and live an ordinary life. He Yinfan always believed that the only reason I got into Peking University's graduate program was by riding on Li Muning's coattails. In his eyes, all my efforts are worthless. Has he forgotten that I was a good student too, that I was even in the top 10 of my grade? Just before the college entrance exam, Li Muning got into a fight, was hospitalized, and then her father passed away. I was her only true friend, so I had no choice but to look after her at night and attend classes during the day. Over time, my grades kept slipping. I even bombed the college entrance exam and ended up at a second-tier university with Li Muning. He seems to have forgotten those tough years when He Yinfan was starting his business alone. I was the one by his side, helping him secure investments and partnerships, and when he turned to drink, it was me who stayed up all night taking care of him, encouraging him to pull himself out of the mire. Once the company was on a stable footing, I realized I had become overly dependent on He Yinfan. I made up my mind to take the postgraduate entrance exam, to step back and focus on my own growth. Everything I did went completely unnoticed by Li Muning and He Yinfan. Then again, that figures. At their core, they're just selfish people. I gave He Yinfan a faint smile. You're right, I said. This good student really does look down on the lot of you. A flicker of irritation crossed his face. But then he remembered something and his expression softened into one of utter nonchalance. Jiangxi, good grades don't mean a thing. A Ning and I have our whole future ahead of us. I chuckled. Whether your future is long or short seems to have nothing to do with me. Oh, right, if it's short, that's none of my business either. I never want to jolt awake in the middle of the night again and yell, are you two out of your minds? Why do I have to be dragged into your little game? 4. That night, on my way home from cram school, I unexpectedly spotted Li Muning and He Yinfan in the alley. What are they doing here? He Yinfan asked Li Muning. A Ning, be honest with me. Did you come here to wait for Jiangxi? Li Muning hesitated for a moment. Yes, I sent her a message, but she didn't reply, so she was waiting for me. But I didn't step forward. He Yinfan sighed. A Ning, are you an idiot? She was never your friend, not for a single moment. Have you forgotten why you started hanging out with her in the first place? A flicker of recognition passed through Li Muning's eyes as she remembered. Her dad had promised to buy her a yacht if she did well in school. He Yinfan voiced her unspoken thoughts. So you had Jiangxi tutor you, and you needed a steady partner. She just happened to be the most obedient and sensible one. Now that she's abandoned you and transferred schools, why are you still clinging to this friendship? Silly girl. You're too naive. It breaks my heart. He Yinfan held Li Muning in his arms and said tenderly, don't grieve over someone who isn't worth it. You have me, and that's enough. A Ning, you must remember, I will always be by your side. This time, I won't give up on you again. Li Muning asked in confusion. Yinfan, why are you so good to me? Because you are my little princess. He affectionately flicked the girl's nose, savoring this hard-won second chance at life, after He Yinfan's counsel. Li Muning came around and let go of her worries. You're right, if it's not Jiangxi, there will be a Wang Shi or a Li Shi. I can always find someone else. Having known Li Muning for so long, I know she's clear-headed and knows exactly what she wants. Hearing those words now, I feel nothing but anger and desolation. So it was only me, foolishly guarding this friendship all along. I clenched my fists, feeling relieved once more that I had distanced myself from them. As the two were being all lovey-dovey here, a group of people emerged from around the corner. Their leader shouted, Li Muning, finally caught you, you bastard. Li Muning's expression shifted slightly. You were waiting here for me. Li Muning had previously offended a rich second-generation heir. Coming from a powerful family, he couldn't swallow his pride and had come to cause trouble for her, without a second thought. I turned back and took a different route. Behind me, chaos erupted. Li Muning, I told you I never wanted to see your face again. Kill her. If you dare lay a hand on me today, my father will make you pay. You haven't heard, have you? Your father's in trouble. Your family's going bankrupt. Ha ha ha. What's wrong with my dad? Ah, A Ning, watch out. He Yinfan shielded Li Muning tightly in his arms. A brick struck his back, and blood flowed unceasingly. Holding her with aching heart, He Yinfan asked, A Ning, are you hurt? Li Muning's gaze was profound, tears streaming as she shook her head. Yunfan, They said my dad, something's happened to my dad, don't be afraid, no matter what's happened, I'm here with you, really, oh, come on, are you two putting on a soap opera here, get them both, I couldn't help but laugh, Yunfan, do you really think this is some kind of grand, epic love, well then, I wish your grand love all the best, may it reach even greater heights. I didn't call the police like I did in my past life. Since I get a second chance, their virtues and flaws are no longer my concern. 5. Lee Muning's father's company went bankrupt, and it made the local news. Jiangxi, you transferred from No. 3 middle school, right, so, do you know Lee Muning? She's quite famous at your school, and she's pretty good looking. I put down my pen and smiled apologetically. Sorry, I don't know her. Right, you're a good student, of course you wouldn't know her. I heard the people she offended in the past have gone to give her trouble. She really got the short end of the stick. I couldn't care less, but since Yunfan was reborn, he must know that something would happen to Mr. Lee, and the Lee family's company would go bankrupt. He could subtly warn Lee Muning to prevent all of this, but why didn't he say anything? Soon enough, my suspicion was confirmed. In the placement exam between my freshman and sophomore years, I ranked in the top 3. My parents were beaming from ear to ear at the parent-teacher conference, and that evening our whole family went out for a big celebratory dinner. Waiters were going in and out of the private room next door, carrying roses and cakes. Mom rested her chin in her hands with a girlish sigh. Someone's about to confess next door. How romantic. I nudged Dad's shoulder. Dad, Mom's dropping a hint. What do you know, little girl? Dad said. What if they're just celebrating a birthday? That's what he said, but he quietly got up halfway through the meal. I winked at Mom. Mom said, oh, don't be silly, your dad just went to answer the phone. While her eyes kept darting glances down the hallway, I couldn't help but burst out laughing, though my laughter soon teetered on the edge of tears. In my past life, just as I got into graduate school, my mother was diagnosed with cancer. My father's dream of taking her on a trip around the world was shattered right then. After round of chemotherapy, her emaciated hand held mine as she said, I have no other wish now, my child, except to see you happy. Yunfan, standing nearby, said earnestly, Auntie, what if Axie and I get engaged first? I was overwhelmed with happiness, completely unaware that Lee Muning and Su Qingyuan had gotten their marriage certificate. So, when I found out my fiancé had set his sights on my best friend, and after Yunfan said that line, tough luck, I completely lost my mind. I screamed hysterically at Yunfan. I would never compete with Lee Muning for anything. If you had just said one word, given me the slightest hint that you were interested in her, I would never have been with you. But why did you have to toy with me like this? Hurt me, even go so far as to get engaged to me. How could you humiliate me like this? Yunfan was in a rush to see Lee Muning and shoved me aside forcefully. I collapsed onto a bed of shattered glass just as my father's call came through. My father was weeping like a lost child. Axie, my girl, what do we do? The doctor said. What are we going to do? How will the two of us get by from now on? I stumbled out the door. It was snowing that night, and I was rushing to see my mother one last time. The road was slick, and the car slammed into the river below the bridge. The icy river water enveloped my body. In the light, I seemed to see my mother, tears streaming down my face as I reached toward the glow. Mom, it's so cold. She held me in her arms. Ashi, don't cry. Mom is here. So warm, so very warm. After I died, my soul did not vanish. Seeing me in the hospital, Dad slapped his own face in regret. I shouldn't have called her. It's all my fault. What kind of father am I? I'm a complete failure. After our funeral was over, Dad, without a moment's hesitation, jumped from the towering skyscraper. That aged face now slowly merges with the youthful one before me. Outside the door, Dad held 2 bouquets of flowers. Surprise, he handed the roses to Mom. The sunflowers were for me. I was enveloped in an overwhelming sense of happiness. The horrific scene from before the car accident gradually fading from my mind. Precisely because my family was harmonious and my parents were kind and pure of heart, I had never been exposed to so much evil. Some say that being reborn doesn't make you any smarter. I truly wasn't clever enough. I didn't have the ability to turn my hand and command the clouds and rain. I'm just relying on sheer determination to study hard and a heart full of love for my parents. Trying to avert the tragedy of my past life, even if just a little. 6. As we finished our meal and left, the door to the private room next to ours was slightly ajar. Mom took one look and saw they were just a couple of wet behind the ears kids. She exclaimed in shock, kids these days are growing up way too fast. I glanced over and was instantly stunned. It was Yunfan and Lee Muning. Yunfan knelt on the ground, holding a bouquet of flowers, his eyes brimming with deep affection. Aining, I've never formally confessed my feelings to you. Now, I want to tell you seriously, I love you. Lee Muning was at a loss for words. I am willing to spend my whole life making you happy. If I ever betray you, you have my permission to end me. I don't want to be your knight anymore. I want to be the one you can lean on. Lee Muning's eyes welled up with emotion. She couldn't forget all the kindness He Yunfan had shown her during this time, when her family fell into trouble. Everyone turned their backs on her and treated her with contempt. Only He Yunfan stood by her side. Unwavering in his loyalty, with tears streaming down her face, Lee Muning threw herself into He Yunfan's arms. Yes, she whispered. The two of them held each other in a tight embrace. He Yunfan stroked the girl's head, his voice full of affection. In this lifetime, you can only love me. We must be faithful to each other. We must never betray one another. If either of us breaks the promise, we'll kill the other. Mom covered my ears and led me away, muttering, talking about killing at such a young age, it's so creepy. Jiangxi, listen to me. Studies come first, puppy love comes second. Alright, I get it. Even if you're going to have a puppy love, you can't stake your life on it. Otherwise, Mom and Dad will be heartbroken. Yeah, I love you guys. I hugged Mom from behind, acting all clingy like I used to. So, my hunch was right. He Yunfan deliberately chose not to warn Lee Muning. After the Lee family's company went bankrupt, debt collectors became a constant presence. Unable to repay the debts, Lee's father jumped from a building. He Yunfan was just a student at the time, completely powerless to help the Lee family. Fortunately, Lee's father had a friend named Sue, who not only adopted Lee Muning but also settled all her debts. Under the Sue family's protection, Lee Muning reverted to her former life as a young lady of privilege. Later, when Lee Muning got together with Su Qingyuan, the Sue family's son, it marked the beginning of her growing distance from He Yunfan. In this life, He Yunfan resolved to confess his feelings first, to cut off any possibility between Lee Muning and Su Qingyuan. He also aimed to make Lee Muning completely dependent on him. Psychologically, He Yunfan, you really are a selfish, love-obsessed fool. 7. He Yunfan and Lee Muning are together now, and they're flaunting their relationship all over our school. Sometimes I get really annoyed. So I just put on my headphones and listen to English. The more I listen, the more proficient my English becomes. Without their interference, I feel incredibly motivated to study. My parents dote on me, cooking delicious meals for me every day with great variety. My father is a home interior designer, with several compensation apartments from demolition. He lacks career ambition and just wants a cozy family life. Now there's one more thing to do, exploring good food. Dad brought out the newly developed cake and said happily, "Sweetie, once you get into college, your mom and I are going to travel everywhere. We'll leave you the few properties we have. If you don't like them, you can sell them and buy something else. Your mother and I don't have grand ambitions for you. We don't ask for wealth or status, just that you live a safe and peaceful life. See, that's what parents are like." My eyes grew warm as I smiled and said, "We can't just travel domestically. We should see the world abroad too. We'll definitely go abroad." I continued to coax them gently. Places like the Maldives, Venice, Iceland, the Arctic. Have you saved up enough money yet? Probably not, right? Oh, by the way, my friend's dad is in real estate and says it's a good industry. Dad, your opportunity is coming. I blinked. If only my dad were the boss, then I wouldn't have to look for a job. I could just graduate and go home to inherit the family business. Dad fell into deep thought. I chuckled and buried my face in the cake. Mom said carelessly, "That would make me the boss's wife." I added, "I'll go with you for your checkup this weekend. A lot of my classmates' parents have gotten theirs done. I can't bear to lose my mother again. In fact, my mother has always been in good health, eating and sleeping well, with no signs of cancer whatsoever. Yet by the time it was detected, it was already at an advanced stage. I can't let this happen again." Just a few days later, Dad left his job, saying he was going to start his own business. Mom's physical exam results came back, and all her indicators were excellent. These pieces of good news finally dispelled the gloom from my past life. Lee Muning and He Yunfan gradually faded from my world. By the time I was a senior in high school, my father's career had taken off. Without the substantial funds to buy a house, our family rode the real estate boom and started a renovation business. The company grew steadily and even began collaborating with property developers. My mother continued her work as a dance instructor, living her life happily, but I make sure to take her for a medical checkup every year, and so I smoothly completed my senior year of high school and took the college entrance exam. Unlike in my previous life, I didn't get into a second-tier university with Lee Muning. I was admitted to Peking University. This time, it was He Yin-fan who got into the second-tier university alongside Li Muning. 8. On the first day of school, my parents dropped me off at Jing University and helped me with registration and finding my dorm. Finally, I walked them both to the school gate. With reluctance in their hearts, Mom and Dad reminded me, make sure to eat breakfast, drink your milk, and try not to stay up too late. Just call us if you run out of money, and if you're coming home for the holidays, let me know ahead of time so I can pick you up. I nodded. Okay, I'll come back to spend National Day with you. Dad, you need to take Mom for a checkup, especially for her stomach, and also, alright, a checkup, and a light diet. Mom gently stroked my head. Her gaze complicated, and finally just sighed. You always seem to have so much on your mind, child. We won't pry if you don't want to talk, but whatever you have to say, your mom and dad are here to listen. I buried my face in my mother's embrace, desperately wanting to burst into tears. So, I was reborn not to get tangled in a love triangle. It was for my parents. Thank goodness I had the clarity of mind. I'm not a fool, am I? I just never thought I'd still run into them. Inevitably, the difference was, Su Qingyuan showed up, Li Muning's husband from her past life. 9. After returning home for National Day and catching up with my high school friends, I stumbled upon the most epic, drama-filled spectacle of two guys fighting over one girl. Li Muning, I think you owe me a proper explanation. Why are you with him? He Yunfan's face turned ashen as he pointed an accusing finger at Su Qingyuan. Sitting opposite Su Qingyuan was Li Muning, who had grown even more beautiful than before. The girl's delicate brows were furrowed. I wasn't with him. I was having a meal with my classmate when he suddenly showed up. Couldn't you have just left? Why would I leave? I paid for it. I need to eat. He Yunfan didn't buy that excuse for a second. He took a deep breath. How much longer are you going to keep lying to me? What have I ever lied to you about? You still love him, don't you? He Yunfan, probably furious and speaking without thinking, blurted out, is it because I don't have any money that you chose him over me? No. Li Muning looked utterly bewildered. What on earth are you talking about? The very person they were arguing about leisurely poured a cup of tea. Sister Muning, your boyfriend doesn't seem to like me very much. Brother, if I've done anything to give you the wrong idea, I apologize. The moment those words were spoken, the drama level shot through the roof. I couldn't help but chuckle to myself. He Yunfan, haven't you learned your lesson yet? In your past life, you couldn't outmaneuver that two-faced man, Su Qingyuan, and now in this life, you're still being overshadowed by him. This is just too funny. Li Muning said to Su Qingyuan, this isn't your fault. You don't need to apologize. You're still defending him. He Yunfan's eyes widened. Without another word, he grabbed Li Muning's arm. Come with me. On what grounds? And so the two of them started making a scene right there in the shop. He Yunfan said, Li Muning, I'll help you repay those debts. Why did you have to take the Su family's money? He Yunfan, I'm warning you again, I didn't take that money willingly. He Yunfan asked coldly, couldn't you have just refused? How could she have refused? They insisted on repaying it. Exhausted from explaining, Li Muning said, think whatever you want. He Yunfan persisted, gripping her hand tightly. Have you fallen for this guy? No. How many times do I have to say it? Then why are you seeing him? Have you forgotten what you promised me? Su Qingyuan added fuel to the fire. Bro, you're so full of yourself. Just because you're not good enough, you won't let someone capable pursue your sister. This made He Yunfan fume with rage. Shut your mouth. He's tilted. He Yunfan ignored him, staring only at Li Muning. I'll give you one chance. Who are you leaving with today? What a love triangle. The people in the shop were utterly dumbfounded. As if the situation wasn't heated enough, Su Qingyuan added, come with me, sister, I would never humiliate you like this. Both men were holding Li Muning's hands. Helpless, she shook them off, looked up, and saw me. I'm not going with anyone, I'm going with her. Li Muning called out my name with precision. Jiangxi, it's been a long time. Seemingly caught off guard by this unexpected reunion, He Yunfan stared at me intently, his turbulent emotions gradually settling. In our past life, he had always been a master of composure around me, never letting his emotions show. This was the first time I'd ever seen him so disheveled. God, I'm so hopelessly in love with Li Muning. That's good. A whole crowd was watching me expectantly, but I refused with righteous indignation. No, I'm just here to watch the show. I have no intention of joining you. 10. I stepped outside the shop and said goodbye to my friends. Jiangxi, don't you recognize me anymore? Li Muning caught up to me. I sent you messages and called you, but you never replied. I said, I got a new number. Then why didn't you tell me? Did you never really consider me a friend? But I've always thought of you as my best friend. She said it with such sincerity. I almost forgot the part where she called me her little sidekick. I smiled and said, if there's nothing else, I'll be on my way. Don't go, Lee Muning said, holding on to me tightly. I started walking forward, and she followed closely behind. Yunfan told me you looked down on us. I didn't believe it at first, but then you never reached out, and I finally did. In your eyes, are we all just bad students? I stopped in my tracks and looked into Lee Muning's eyes. I wanted to say, I've tried, I've given my all, but what did it get me in the end? But I didn't. I just said coldly, right. How could a boring bookworm like me, who only knows how to study, possibly understand friendship? Just assume I don't get it. I thought Lee Muning would leave after I said that, but she didn't. She practically dragged me into the convenience store and bought some alcohol. Jiangxi, stay and sit with me for a while, please, I'm begging you. 11. The river bridge was nearby. Lee Muning led me to a bench by the bank and we sat down. A cool river breeze brushed against our cheeks, willow tendrils rested on our shoulders, and the lake's surface shimmered under the glow of multicolored neon lights. It was all so perfect, just like the old days, when she and I were so incredibly close. When she cried, I cried with her. When I laughed, she laughed with me. The friendship between girls is the most beautiful thing in this world. Lee Muning popped open the can and tilted her head back, taking a swig of beer. Jiangxi, to be honest, I missed you so much after you transferred schools. I used to wait for you secretly on your way to cram school. It's a shame I got ambushed. Lee Muning tilted her head and stared at me. But you've changed. You've become so cold, so unfamiliar to me. I've been wondering if I did something wrong, if I made you hate me. I shook my head and said, no, you didn't do anything wrong. In this life, you haven't done anything wrong. Lee Muning curled her lips into a smile, seemingly drunk. You're right, she said, I can't be wrong. No one could possibly dislike me. She told me about all that had happened over the years, and about He Yunfan. High school was actually quite fun. He Yunfan would take her out every day. He Yunfan would do his best to buy her whatever she wanted. After getting into university, they rented a place off campus and moved in together, for her sake. He Yunfan started his business venture earlier than planned. I thought to myself, well, of course, given a second chance at life, you'd want to spoil your beloved wife rotten. But then things changed. Lee Muning had a lot weighing on her mind, and she was utterly distressed. It started when the Su family took the initiative to pay off my debts, and they even wanted to adopt me. I asked, so, did you agree? Yunfan didn't agree. Just as I expected, He Yunfan said to Lee Muning, your father's bankruptcy wasn't as straightforward as it seems. The Su family might have been pulling the strings behind the scenes. Why would they adopt you? Most likely, it was a guilty conscience. When you find out the truth later, you'll remember their kindness in raising you and won't have the heart to do anything to them. I'm the only one in this world who truly cares for you. I would never scheme against you, Lee Muning said with a headache. I trusted Yunfan. I didn't agree to the Su family's adoption. But now he's become so suspicious and paranoid. He checks my phone, questions my whereabouts, terrified I'm having an affair. He even keeps saying he started his business for my sake. He's really getting on my nerves. What on earth should I do? She wrapped her arm around my shoulder, looking as lost as a child, yet I felt no pity, only murmuring softly, look to where your own heart truly lies. My heart, she whispered faintly. A moment later, Lee Muning noticed Su Qingyuan's car following at a steady, unhurried pace. She paused for a moment, then smiled. I understand now. Thank you, Jiangxi, for helping me realize what I truly want. She ran cheerfully towards Su Qingyuan. Su Qingyuan got out of the car, pulled her into his arms, and asked if she was cold. Lee Muning shook her head. He still took off his coat and draped it over the girl's shoulders. The picture of utter devotion, in that moment. I remembered all her grievances and her fragility. I so wanted to say, Lee Muning, don't choose Su Qingyuan, don't choose him. But she didn't even glance back at me, just got into the man's car. What happened to Mr. Lee back then was indeed connected to the Su family. The Su family adopted her precisely to find out if Mr. Lee had given any crucial evidence to Lee Muning before he jumped. Oh, that foolish girl. In my past life, when Lee Muning learned the truth, she came to me and cried her heart out. I told her to go straight to the police, but having been a wealthy socialite for so long, she actually hesitated. In the end, Lee Muning didn't report it and continued living her lavish life with Su Qingyuan, but gradually, she discovered Su Qingyuan was keeping multiple mistresses on the side. Her so-called happiness was nothing but an illusion. That's why she chose to vent by street racing, which led to the car crash. That's how the words, He Yunfan, only now do I realize my true feelings for you, came to be. I took a few steps back and sank onto the bench. I picked up the beer Lee Muning hadn't finished and downed it in one gulp. The bitter taste of malt spread through my mouth, yet it sharpened my mind. Warning, do not interfere with others. Warning, don't be soft-hearted. 12. I don't know what happened after that. After the National Day holiday, I returned to Peking University. Every day is a whirlwind of classes and club activities, living that classic, slightly fragile yet wide-eyed college life. In my junior year, the club organized a hiking trip. We had just reached the temple at the mountain peak when my dad called, "Hey sweetie, you been busy, find some time to come home, will you? I miss you." My hand trembling slightly, I asked as calmly as I could, "Dad, just tell me straight, I can handle it." Dad hemmed and hawed for a long moment before finally speaking. "Your mother has a tumor. It's in the early stages, but it's nothing serious. Don't worry, don't panic." After hanging up, my legs felt like jelly. I dropped to my knees with a thud and bowed my head reverently before the Buddha. I only realized I was crying when I looked up, my face wet with tears. I bought a ticket and rushed home that very night. Mom was already checked into the hospital. Lying in bed, she chided Dad. "The doctor said it's just a minor procedure. Why did you have to call the child home?" Dad scratched his head sheepishly. I missed our child." I held my mother's hand and said, "I'll only be upset if you don't tell me." On the day of my mother's surgery, my father and I waited outside. Suddenly, we heard a commotion outside, and a team of doctors rushed past, pushing a stretcher. "Patient with 5 severe stab wounds to the abdomen, O-negative blood, prepare plasma, get DR, Lee here for emergency treatment, now." As the stretcher passed by, I saw Lee Muning lying on it, covered in blood. I froze. In my daze, she reached out and grabbed me. Her grip weak and fading, her beautiful face was streaked with blood and tears as she whispered weakly, "Axie, I was wrong. I know I was wrong now." Before I could say anything, the doctors had already wheeled her into the operating room. What on earth happened? It couldn't be. I opened my phone to check out the stabbing incident that was blowing up online. Turns out, today was Lee Muning and Su Qingyuan's engagement day. In the video, Lee Muning, wearing a haute couture gown, was happily toasting guests with Su Qingyuan on her arm. Suddenly, He Yunfan appeared out of nowhere, brandishing a knife and charging forward. "Su Qingyuan, if it weren't for you, Aining would be mine. You're the one who stole her from me." Su Qingyuan, terrified and panicked, shoved Lee Muning forward without a second thought. The dagger plunged into Lee Muning's chest, and blood splattered across the ground. Lee Muning stared at the wound in disbelief. She couldn't understand why Su Qingyuan, who claimed to love her, would push her. Nor could she fathom He Yunfan's madness that drove him to murder. As he watched his beloved collapse in his arms, He Yunfan gripped Lee Muning's shoulders, his face twisted with malice and obsession. "Aining, you see, he never loved you at all. I loved you so much. Why wouldn't you listen to me? Why did you betray me? Why did you choose him in the end? Then what was the point of everything I did?" Lee Muning's eyes widened, and she slowly crumpled to the floor. He Yunfan held her tightly in his arms. "Would choosing me be so bad? I'm the only one who truly loves you, but I don't love you anymore." Lee Muning shook her head slowly. "No, you don't understand. You don't trust me. You don't give me any freedom, having lost too much blood." She closed her eyes in despair. Seeing this, Su Qingyuan shouted, "What are you all standing around for? Call the police." 13. While I was feeding my mother porridge, Su Qingyuan found me. "Lee Muning is awake," he said. "She wants to talk to you." Lee Muning had lost a great deal of weight. Her familiar gaze was filled with weariness, confusion, and a sense of dependence. She reached out her hand to me, and her eyes welled up with tears the moment she spoke. "Axie." I had a vague inkling of what was coming. Lee Muning's tears fell in heavy drops. She said, "At the brink of death, I had a dream. I dreamt of us. From before, I realized how good you were to me. When I was hospitalized, you cared for me day and night. You got into the same university as me. You made me hangover soup when I was drunk, and told me jokes when I was sad. You told me not to trust Su Qingyuan, that he was a playboy, but I didn't listen. That's why my marriage was so unhappy. And later, when you told me to go to the police, I didn't do that either. I thought Su Qingyuan helped and protected me because he loved me. I never imagined he was just using me. And He Yunfan, he was so fixated on atoning for a past life's mistake that he just stood by and watched my family go bankrupt, watched the debt drive my father to jump off a building. What you can't have is always the best. They're all just selfish people." She looked at me earnestly. "It's always been you, Axie. From the very beginning, you've been the only one who's truly been good to me. But why didn't I understand before? I should have listened to you." After listening to her speak slowly, I calmly interrupted, "It was just a dream. There's no need to take it so seriously. She shook her head stubbornly. It wasn't a dream. It felt like I've lived through it. I'm the one who wronged you. I even betrayed you with Yunfan, I said. It's all in the past. It's not in the past. I was wrong. I'm the worst, Axie. Can you ever forgive me? Seeing my silence, she gave a self-deprecating smile. Right, of course you shouldn't forgive me. If our roles were reversed and you had done all this, I wouldn't forgive you either. So I got my comeuppance. The doctor said I was lucky to survive, but I'm left with severe after effects. I deserved it. You must be laughing at me in your heart, right? No, I said, tucking her in. I only hope you can grow from this, meaning. Can we still be good friends? I smiled gently. No, I'm doing quite well now. Her eyes gradually dimmed as she murmured to herself. So, you were aware all along, Ashi. I finally understand what you told me. If you aim for the moon, even if you fall, you'll land among the treetops. But I understood it far too late. I didn't answer her. The doctor said visiting hours are only 10 minutes. I should go. When I reached the doorway, I heard Li Muning begin to sob. It started as a whimper, then escalated into heart-wrenching, gut-wrenching sobs, as if she had lost the most precious thing in the world. 14. A week later, Mom was ready to be discharged from the hospital. As Dad and I were leaving after completing all the discharge formalities, a plainclothes police officer stopped me. Are you Miss Jiang? He explained that he was in charge of investigating He Yunfan's homicide case. He Yunfan wants to see you. Why does everyone suddenly want to see me? Dad scratched his head, hesitating to speak. What kind of friends are you hanging out with? I refused. I didn't expect them to keep calling me Miss Jiang. He Yunfan insists on seeing you. He says it's very important. I had no choice but to go. Standing behind the fence, He Yunfan had lost a significant amount of weight. He looked at me with a profound gaze. Actually, ever since you wanted to transfer schools, I knew you had been reborn too. I wasn't too surprised. He was always clever. Jiang Shi. You're so clear-headed. That's why I'm also relieved you're no longer chasing after me. Just like after you died, I could finally be with Li Muning without the burden of betraying you. I wasn't surprised. That's more like you. Yeah, the selfish, self-serving me. He Yunfan was at a loss, but no matter what I do, things never seem to go the way I want them to. In his past life, Su Qingyuan felt a deep sense of shame over Li Muning's betrayal. He ruined He Yunfan's company and tortured Li Muning to death, even though he was a scumbag himself. With Li Muning's death, his attempt to win her over had also failed. At the moment of my death, I made a promise to the heavens. If I could have another chance, I would hold on to aiming tightly and make her happy, but I don't understand how I still failed. He Yunfan sighed. Perhaps I shouldn't have forced it. Because I already had happiness. I paused, a sense of foreboding washing over me. He Yunfan's gaze toward me was indeed complex. Though I don't love you, it's undeniable that you love me, treat me well, and are emotionally stable, a rare and high-quality partner. One can be haunted for a lifetime by the unknowable things of youth, yet also be freed by one person. It's not too late for me to understand this now. That is the reason I wanted to see you one last time. I need to apologize, to atone, to make you understand that I have truly awakened to my mistakes. And I regret them. After He Yunfan finished speaking, he fell silent for a moment, then called my name with deep affection. Axie. I frowned. The confession is all set up. So what's next? He Yunfan said earnestly. Can you take care of Aining for me? When I get out, we can start over. I took a deep breath and sneered. You've got some nerve. How do you manage to land on your feet every time? Axie, don't be angry. Even though I love Li Muning, it doesn't conflict with starting over with you. Perhaps a man's heart always tips with the scales, gradually leaning toward your side. I laughed, even wanting to slap him across the face twice. He Yunfan, if you want to atone for your sins, go do it in prison. You think you're the only one who's relieved. I'm more grateful than anyone to have been reborn. In this life, I don't have to be friends with Li Muning anymore. I don't have to chase after an idiot like you. And I don't have to be the third wheel in your little game. I am not some worthless trash. Oh, by the way, I came to tell you that Li Muning has been reborn too. I left that wretched place behind, leaving a lingering sense of mystery in my wake. 15. Li Muning suffered organ damage and spent half a year in the hospital, with her condition periodically taking a turn for the worse, only to be pulled back from the brink by the doctors each time. This endless torment. I don't know if she wants to live, but the regret is certain. The last time I heard about her, it was actually Su Qingyuan who told me. He said he wanted to propose to Li Muning again and hoped I would give them my blessing. I refused. He was silent for a few seconds. Muning always calls out your name. She wants your blessing. I looked at the girl on his arm and asked, if you don't love her, why are you marrying her? Consider it something I owe her. I let out a dry laugh. Men are such bastards. They hurt you without a moment's hesitation, then turn around with their phony apologies, spouting bullshit like, I owe you this, I need to atone, Lee Muning, oh Lee Muning. I hope you can grow and see through the schemes of men. This is your last chance to live well and not be dragged into the abyss. Last chance. 16. Later on, I got into graduate school and never crossed paths with Lee Muning or Su Qingyuan again. I don't know how many years passed, but I found myself accompanying my boss to a business negotiation. During a break, the other party's leader called the internal line to have their secretary come and distribute materials. Director Wang. A tall girl knocked and pushed the door open. We locked eyes. Both momentarily stunned. It was Lee Muning. She didn't greet me, just went about her business with professional detachment, distributing the materials before leaving. I watched her figure retreat slowly into the distance. The boss asked, do you know each other? Before I could say a word, the other leader chuckled. Just a junior staffer who got transferred up, quite the hard worker. That's good. You didn't accept Su Qingyuan's proposal, nor did you get entangled with He Yunfan. You saw right through their schemes, so, it's settled. Story 2. When we both fell to the zombie horde together, cradling me in his arms with tears, he whispered how grateful he was to have fought side by side with me through this chaotic world. If there's a next life, I swear I'll find you again, wait for me. When I opened my eyes again, we'd truly returned to the pre-apocalyptic world. Less than 7 days remained before zombies would overrun the National College entrance exam halls. My childhood friend suddenly stood up and pulled my deskmate Xia Xian into a tight embrace. At that moment, I could hear his ecstatic inner monologue. This lifetime, I'll conquer the apocalypse with my one true love by my side. He publicly defied the teacher to announce his dropout, then took out massive loans to hoard supplies. On the way home from school, he let his sweetheart tear up my exam admission ticket, whispered in my ear with mock mercy, Su Jingyue, it's not too late to join me now. With a quiet smile, I calmly completed all my exams and finally received the admission letter from Tsinghua University, yet he kept waiting and waiting. Instead of the apocalypse, what came for him was a brutal beating from debt collectors. Year 10 of the apocalypse, the safe haven Huashen and I built with our own hands finally crumbled under the relentless siege of the zombie horde. In our final moments, Huashen held me tight against his chest. A scalding tear fell into the hollow of my shoulder. His voice broke as he spoke. Meeting you and knowing you in this lifetime has been my greatest joy. If we're granted another life, wait for me. I'll find you no matter what. I believed it, and so did the heavens. When I opened my eyes again, I'd returned to 7 days before the apocalypse began. The homeroom teacher was holding the final class meeting at the podium. Wishing all my students outstanding exam results and admission to your dream schools, the class chuckled in response to their teacher's well wishes before burying their heads in last-minute revision. The ceiling fan whirred overhead, the restless wind, the school uniform clinging to sweaty skin, the faint tang of perspiration lingering after gym class. Not exactly ideal conditions, yet I felt completely at peace, because in 7 days, the exam hall would become ground zero for the zombie outbreak and the world would descend into hell. And now, I might actually have a chance to change all this. While the homeroom teacher was reviewing the final mock exam at the podium, I quietly pulled out my phone and texted my brother who works at the Emergency Management Bureau, asking him to meet me at the bubble tea shop by the school gate after class. Seeing this, my deskmate Xia Xian curled her lips and said sarcastically, Su Jingyue, I know you're top of the class, but must you play with your phone right now? Xia Xian and I had never gotten along. I countered with a smirk. What? Don't tell me you wouldn't want to. Xia Xian's face darkened as she shot me a venomous glare before falling silent. I breathed a sigh of relief after getting my brother's confirmation, then looked up at Huashen sitting by the podium. A quiet anticipation stirred in my heart. We'd fought side by side for a decade in the apocalypse, surviving countless life or death situations and sharing passionate intimacy. What about him? Could he also remember our past life? Under my gaze, Huashen suddenly rose from his slumped position on the desk. The screech of chair legs scraping against marble floors drew the entire class's attention. Oblivious to the commotion, he walked step by step toward me. Then, in one swift motion, he pulled Xia Xian into a trembling embrace. Xia Xian, I'm so happy to see you again. At the same moment, I could hear his ecstatic inner voice. Thank God, I actually traveled back before the apocalypse began. Not only do I have ample time to stockpile supplies, but my beloved Xia Xian is still alive. This time, I'll make sure we survive the apocalypse together and rise as the ultimate rulers. As for Su Jingyue, she's decent looking and quite skilled. Well, since she was my wife in a past life, I might as well consider her for the harem, too, meeting Huishin's indifferent gaze. I realized this wasn't auditory hallucination, it was his unfiltered inner monologue in this very moment. The whistles and cheers in the classroom were piercing my eardrums. The homeroom teacher frowned and snapped. What's all this racket? Have you all memorized the key concepts? The crowd reluctantly averted their gazes, yet Huishin kept his arms firmly around Xia Xian. The teacher who'd been turning a blind eye finally lost his temper. Huishin, are you deaf or what? Xia Xian froze before snapping back to reality and giving Huishin a slight push. Classmate Hua, stop this, it's inappropriate. Huishin completely ignored the homeroom teacher's death glare and planted a kiss on her forehead, then he gazed at her with a playful smile. Well, do you like it? Xia Xian lowered her eyes shyly, casting a triumphant glance at me with the corner of her eye. She knew I'd had a crush on Huishin before, but that was all in the past. I averted my gaze indifferently, my expression utterly frosty. I'm no longer that 18-year-old Su Jinyue who believed in fairy tale romances. After decades surviving the zombie apocalypse, I've learned to live just fine without Huishin. I just can't make sense of it. The person who was promising eternal love not long ago, now reborn, discards me like trash and embraces another without hesitation. So were those 10 years with me just an act? I just can't figure it out, but one thing's for certain. Huishin had spent too long in the apocalypse, forgetting how to live in a world with normal order. Right now, he's standing ramrod straight, facing off against the homeroom teacher. The inner voice twisted into madness. Damn it, I've had enough of that idiot homeroom teacher, always micromanaging every damn thing, worse than my nagging mom. College entrance exams. In 7 days the zombie apocalypse hits, and the first to die will be those obedient honor students taking their tests. No time for these morons anymore. Gotta rush home to prep for doomsday, stockpile supplies, fortify a safe house. With an arm around Xia Xian's waist, he whispered tenderly, do you trust me? Xia Xian, though Huishin's grades were mediocre, he was blessed with striking good looks. Dazed by those shimmering puppy dog eyes gazing intently at her, Xia Xian nodded in a daze. Huishin let out a triumphant laugh and flipped the desk right in front of their homeroom teacher. You bald bastard. I'm done with this, I quit school. The classroom whispers died out completely. Everyone stared at Huishin in shock, their eyes screaming this guy's lost his damn mind, including the utterly dumbfounded Xia Xian. The table Huishin just overturned was hers. Inside were the limited edition hidden Labuba figurines she'd paid a fortune to have someone proxy buy for her. Now they were trampled multiple times by the furious Huishin, lying in filthy water. Xia Xian was so angry she could practically taste blood, met my amused gaze with perfect timing. She quickly composed herself and looped her arm through Huishin's. Huishin remained oblivious to our little exchange. He scanned the room and sneered contemptuously. What, surprised? Think I've lost my mind, don't you? You actually believe reading those worthless books can change your fate? Mark my words, when disaster strikes. Bookworms like you with no strength to even tie a chicken will be the first to die. Soon, a brand new world will dawn and I shall be its sovereign. These bookworm idiots aren't even worthy of being my teammates in the apocalypse. Just drop dead, all of you. Huishin delivered this declaration with steel in his voice, then strode away with a thoroughly confused Xia Xian in tow. The homeroom teacher trembled with rage, yet remained powerless against him. With the college entrance exams just around the corner, Huishin couldn't care less about any disciplinary actions or criticism. The homeroom teacher certainly wasn't about to stir up trouble either. He stood frozen for a moment before sighing quietly and returning to the podium. It was the class monitor who subtly signaled the other students with a glance. Everyone chimed in to comfort him. Don't take Huishin seriously. Mr. Lee, that guy's always been a loose cannon. You're amazing, you've been like a parent to us, so what if you nag a little? Exactly, he was never top of the class anyway, went the athlete route early, so of course he'd given up on academics. We've slaved through 12 years of school just for this moment. The teenager's chattering words of comfort brought tears to the homeroom teacher's eyes. He wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes, revealing a relieved smile. Good children. Stay calm, everyone will surely deliver satisfactory results. I watched quietly. For a fleeting moment, the homeroom teacher's figure on the podium merged with that of a past life. It was the third hour of the zombie outbreak. The exam hall turned into a living hell, filled with screams and wails. Our homeroom teacher, who'd been waiting outside, was the first to notice something wrong. He led a rescue team inside, saving panicked students one after another. Among them was Huishin. But Huishin had forgotten all of that. All he remembered was his homeroom teacher's endless nagging, confiscating his phone, comics, and novels. He only knew his grades were hopeless. No matter how hard he tried, the college entrance exam was beyond reach, so he had to seize this apocalyptic opportunity to make something of himself, even if this opportunity came at the cost of countless bloody lives. 4. On my way home from school, I was racking my brains on how to convince my brother the apocalypse was coming. Two shadows suddenly fell across my path, blocking the way. It was Huishan and Xia Xian. Huishan probed cautiously, Su Jinyue, do you believe in the apocalypse? His expression remained gentle, but the thoughts racing through his mind were terrifying enough to chill one's blood. If Su Jinyue has also been reborn, she'd undoubtedly move heaven and earth to prevent the apocalypse. Such naive mercy, I'll never let her interfere. A fleeting glint of murderous intent flashed through Huishan's eyes. I just find it ridiculous. So the person who stayed by my side in my past life was actually such a selfish little rat. He's quite the actor, isn't he? I sighed softly, looking at him like he was an idiot. Haven't you caused enough scenes in the classroom? What about Aunt Shui if you don't take the college entrance exam? Huishan's expression softened slightly at the mention of his mother. After his father's death, Aunt Shui raised him alone by selling breakfast. The mother and son relied on each other, sharing an exceptionally deep bond. He squinted at me for a long moment, then reluctantly snorted in displeasure after confirming I wasn't actually reborn. Su Jinyue, if you value your life, you'd better skip the college entrance exam in 7 days. Stay home with your parents, sweetheart. I'll come get you when it's time. I've said all there is to say. You're on your own now. Huishan's words sounded so sincere, as if he still retained a shred of conscience toward me. But I knew the truth. What he really valued was our family's privileged access to the safe zone as researchers' dependents. When the apocalypse first broke out, my brother died in the zombie horde while protecting the antivirus serum data. Our family received special treatment from the authorities as a result. And we were among the first evacuated to the safe zone along with Huishan's group. That's where Huishan built his initial network of connections. Now he's unwilling to give up these privileges. I gave a non-committal nod and turned to leave. Xia Xian suddenly rushed over, snatched my bag, deftly found the exam permit, and tore it to shreds in seconds. Shredded paper fluttered to the ground like snow. With arrogance, Xia Xian said, Huishan, why waste words with this bookworm? Just tear up her exam permit and be done with it. Without the exam admission ticket, let's see how she's going to take the test. Huishan nodded in approval. Truly my favorite, decisive and ruthless, just like me. I was speechless for a moment before asking sincerely, you can just reprint the admission ticket. Don't tell me you didn't even know that. Their faces froze. Huishan had genuinely forgotten after all this time. As for Xia Xian, her family had long arranged for her to study abroad. She never needed to take the national college entrance exam in the first place. So what? Remember our warning, Su Jinyue. This is your last chance to seek refuge with me. Huishan snorted coldly and strode away with Xia Xian in tow. I called after him, Huishan, do you really believe the apocalypse is coming? Of course, without breaking stride. He answered without hesitation, then why not warn people and ask for help? If something really happens in 7 days, at least we'll be prepared. Huishan turned to me with a sardonic smile. Do you think anyone would believe that? Besides, fewer competitors mean smoother power grabs later, I said calmly. Every life counts. Teachers, classmates, neighbors, they're all living beings around us. Huishan sneered. How naive. He strode away without so much as a backward glance. Xia Xian's figure stiffened momentarily before she turned to give me an inscrutable look. 5. In the bubble tea shop, my brother kept checking his watch with visible agitation. Jinyue, what on earth was so urgent that you made me come all this way? I've got a ton of work waiting in the lab. Seeing me arrive, he couldn't help muttering under his breath. Without a trace of anger, I threw myself into his arms, tears streaming down uncontrollably. In my past life, I didn't even get to see him one last time. The bureau said he was nearly reduced to mangled bones by zombies. Yet he shielded the precious documents beneath his body, keeping them completely intact. Perhaps Huishan was right. Human nature is inherently selfish, always instinctively choosing what benefits oneself. But there are always exceptions. People whose very souls shine brilliantly. That's just how my brother is, and I trust him completely. My brother was startled to see my tears and asked sternly, what's wrong? Did someone bully you at school? I shook my head and wiped away my tears, with a smile. I said, bro, what I'm about to tell you might sound crazy, but please believe me, every word is true. In exactly 7 days at 9:56 a.m., examinee number 059634 in Shinji High School C183 exam hall will turn into a zombie. The entire testing room will be infected within 10 minutes, then the whole school. It's not just the exam site, Prada Plaza in the suburbs and Stone Lion Gym downtown will simultaneously experience zombie outbreaks, if things are proceeding as expected. Several carriers are already showing varying degrees of symptoms. Immediate intervention is required. These were the exact details confirmed through multiple official after-action reports from my past life, memorized word for word. A few question marks slowly appeared above my brother's head. He hesitated, then reached out to feel my forehead while muttering to himself, "No fever." Could exam stress have triggered some sort of hysterical episode? I saw this coming, bro. Call your colleagues right now. Ask if their district hospitals are seeing a bizarre surge in rabies cases, patients showing extreme aggression, rapid symptom progression, and dying before treatment can even be administered. I only learned later that the zombie virus has an incubation and evolution period. In its early stages, it lurks in the human body with symptoms indistinguishable from rabies. As the virus mutated through generations, its contagiousness and aggressiveness skyrocketed, becoming the terrifying zombie virus we know today. My brother called his colleague with skepticism, only to receive the exact same response as mine. I proceeded to reveal several future events that only someone who had lived through them could know. Each prediction matched perfectly. My brother's expression grew increasingly grave until he abruptly stood up. "No, I must report this immediately. We can't let what you've described come to pass." Then he let out a heavy sigh, his face clouded with worry. "I can't even begin to imagine the living hell that would be. Xinyu, take care of yourself. Time is of the essence. I need to immediately assemble experts and labs to start research." "Wait," I grabbed his sleeve. "Brother, I know the formula for the antiserum." In the 4th year of the apocalypse, I finally laid eyes on the precious data my brother had risked his life to protect. The documents bore not just my brother's smeared, darkened bloodstains, but also the serum formula developed during the initial outbreak by countless scientists and doctors who worked tirelessly, one after another, to combat the original zombie virus. The virus evolved at an alarming rate, rapidly upgrading itself within human hosts. With experts either dead or incapacitated, no one remained who could exploit the virus's weaknesses. Eradication became a distant dream, but now, there's still time to act. Locking eyes with my brother, I slowly recited the serum formula I'd committed to memory. Before I knew it, tears were welling up in my eyes. Reborn into this world, my sole wish is that the apocalyptic devastation may never come to pass. 6. In the Emergency Management Agency's conference room, several stern officials surrounded me with cameras and voice recorders. I poured out every detail of my past life memories until I was utterly drained. Someone held my hand while others patted my shoulder. "Thank you, comrade. The information you've provided is invaluable. It could save countless lives." I gave a faint smile, and my brother puffed out his chest with pride. "Damn right, you're looking at my little sister." It was already midnight when I got back from the bureau. The motion-activated hallway lights flickered on one by one. Huishin stood grim-faced at my doorstep, a gleaming butterfly knife in his hand. He lifted his icy gaze to me. "Su Xinyu, where have you been?" My heart skipped a beat. I thought my reincarnation secret had been exposed. Instinctively, I tightened my grip on the compact stun gun my brother had just given me. His disgusted inner monologue followed immediately. How did I never notice Su Xinyu was this promiscuous, out all night carousing with random men instead of coming home? I can't believe I wasted my past life with that used-up trash. Just thinking about it makes me sick. I just got back riding the Emergency Management Bureau's official vehicle. It was too late, and my workaholic brother was completely obsessed with verifying the serum formula, too focused to even glance my way. Thankfully he still had a shred of decency left. Had his assistant drive me home. If Huishin had bothered to look properly for just 2 more seconds, he'd have realized that the other man was just my brother's colleague who often walks home with him, but he didn't, and arrogantly jumped to the conclusion that I was promiscuous. I couldn't help but feel a pang of pity for him. He could have noticed the truth and changed his mind, if only he'd paid attention. Unfortunately, he found nothing. Instead, he glared at me with a stony face, barely containing his anger as he demanded, "Who was that man who just brought you home?" I raised an eyebrow. "What's it to you?" On second thought, Huishin and I are neighbors on the same floor, and Aunt Shui is still home. There's no way he'd dare make a move on me here. I shoved Huishin aside and unlocked my door with an impassive face. When he tried to follow me in, I swiftly slammed the door shut in his face. His furious, frantic heartbeat pulsed through the door. "Su Xinyu, you'll regret this. When I become the ruler of this wasteland, I wouldn't spare you even if you groveled at my feet." Huishin's top priority should be uninstalling those cringe-worthy Dragon King novels from his phone, but Huishin sees it differently. The next day, defying Aunt Shue's objections. He secretly mortgaged his current apartment to loan sharks, securing nearly $1 million in seed money. He rented the penthouse and began stockpiling supplies in bulk: 300 pounds of vacuum-sealed rice, 20 crates of survival biscuits, 100 cases of instant noodles, 100 canned meats, 10 emergency water containers, 5 boxes of water purification tablets, assorted freeze-dried meals, saline solution, cold medicine, anti-inflammatory drugs, iodine. Huishen's shopping spree covered everything imaginable, while simultaneously arranging renovation upgrades for both penthouse units, installed burglar-proof windows, soundproof panels, blast-resistant security doors, one-way privacy mirrors, blackout curtains, along with solar panels, a hand-crank generator, and the most advanced surveillance and early warning system on the market. Even added 3 water tanks on the rooftop to store fresh water reserves. Within days, the penthouse was transformed into an impenetrable apocalypse fortress. If all goes well, these preparations would see him and Aunt Shue safely through the initial chaos of the apocalypse, allowing them to join the official base with ample surplus supplies and emerge as the beacon of humanity in the mid-apocalypse era, of course. That's assuming everything goes smoothly. While he was hoarding supplies like crazy, I, as the reborn prophet who warned of the apocalypse, was secretly taken into protective custody at the Emergency Management Bureau to prepare. Following my suggestion, my mother took Aunt Shue, who'd been quarreling with Huishen, on a relaxing trip to the neighboring city. Huishen was practically relieved to have Aunt Shue out of the way, giving him free rein to make his move, so he didn't object. I looked up from the dizzying math exam papers just in time to hear someone outside briefing my brother on Huishen's recent activities. After confirming the reality of the apocalypse, the Emergency Management Bureau was granted sweeping authority. Huishen's covert stockpiling efforts were completely transparent to the authorities. His communication devices were under 24/7 surveillance, with every website visited and item purchased being logged in real time for behavioral analysis. I never concealed the fact that Huishen was also a reincarnator. The Bureau has been trying to make contact with him to gather more intel about the apocalypse. After 10 years together, plus the debt I owe Aunt Shue, this is his final chance. Pity, he refused to communicate with anyone, whether undercover agents sent by the administration or officials who identified themselves. When questioned about the stockpile of emergency supplies on the rooftop, he grew visibly guarded, claiming he was planning to open an online store specializing in survival gear. As for the bank-grade security system, officer, how I decorate my own home is a citizen's basic right. Surely you're not going to police that too. Could you stop being so possessive about other people's money? The staff member vividly described the scene to my brother. His expression was complicated, his voice tinged with resentment. Captain, this kid won't listen to reason and has some counter-surveillance awareness. What should we do? My brother remained silent as he carefully reviewed Huishen's behavioral records from the past few days. After a moment, he tossed the documents aside and waved his hand. We've gathered enough intel. He shows no signs of proactive aggression. Keep just 2 agents for surveillance. Recall the rest to screen potential infected cases. Yes. After the staff left, my brother turned to me with a puzzled gaze and asked quietly, what exactly did you go through during those 10 years of the apocalypse? I remember Huishen wasn't like this before. 8. My gaze flickered, not wanting to worry my brother. I offered a half-truth of my speculation. Those 10 years were hell. Zombies everywhere. Society collapsed. We lived by the law of the jungle where only the strong survived. Huishen, he probably just hasn't adjusted to living in a peaceful world yet. I understood my brother's confusion. The Huishen of old valued loyalty above all. Though reckless and impulsive, he never lost his moral compass. Even with a second chance at life, I'd struggle to believe the depths of his twisted madness. Had I not heard those inner thoughts myself, his facade was flawless. Though long weary of me, he maintained that tender, devoted act right until his dying breath. My brother nodded thoughtfully, clearly wanting to press for more details. A beaming colleague interrupted. Captain Sue, great news. We've made progress with the infected subjects. Immediately dropping his concerns about Huishen, my brother decisively followed the colleague to the lab to examine the infected. I breathed a sigh of relief, deciding against telling my brother that Huishen might have been acting suspicious for a while. In the early days of the apocalypse, the world descended into chaos, filled with screams and wails everywhere. I struggled to adapt, doing my best to avoid bloody confrontations, but Huishen thrived in this madness, reveling in it. Once, our squad encountered a group of survivors ready to band together. until Huishin spotted the infection among them. Without hesitation, he turned his blade on those still sane humans, even children no older than 7 or 8, who'd just been smiling sweetly at us and calling us heroes. I couldn't accept or comprehend this, so I confronted him. Huishin calmly wiped blood from his knife. I merely granted them early release. Isn't it better to die lucidly as humans than to become mindless zombies? He sighed and ruffled my hair with a resigned tone. Sujin Yue, wake up. This is a brutal apocalypse. Your bleeding heart will only get you killed. Back then, his words shook me. I felt guilty, convinced I'd been too indecisive, but thinking it through, no. There were clearly better solutions. At the very least, with his combat skills, those infected could have died painlessly. I later visited that room, and the first thing that struck me was the horrifying bloodstains. Every victim died in agony, their faces frozen in perpetual terror. At the time, I didn't understand what Huishin had actually done to them, but now I realize he was reveling in the slaughter. 9. My brother's colleague did bring genuinely good news. Under the state apparatus coordination, all key suspected carriers have been located and contained within designated quarantine zones. By this point, they've all exhibited varying degrees of violent aggression, disorientation, and delirium. Dozens of experts in biomedicine, genetics, and related fields from across the nation rushed to the scene upon receiving the alert. Gray-haired scholars and cane-dependent researchers worked around the clock for 2 straight days, skipping meals to validate the antiserum formula against clinical observations. When the last trace of the zombie virus vanished from the final suspected patient, the entire control bureau erupted in thunderous cheers. People embraced each other with tears streaming down their faces. But this was far from over. After the infected regained consciousness, authorities tracked their movements and apprehended several suspicious foreign nationals. The truth only came out after the interrogation. The so-called apocalypse was actually a premeditated biochemical attack by hostile forces. Following the National College entrance exams, our city will host an international military technology expo. The entire exhibition will be live-streamed globally, with wealthy Middle Eastern clients enthusiastically placing orders and generating substantial foreign exchange. Their goal was to create mass chaos, humiliating China on the global stage. Ironically, in our past lives, the nations behind these foreign operatives collapsed completely during the early apocalypse, their governments dissolving, yet China's authorities never ceased rescue operations for civilians. Not even after Huishin and I died. Those schemers likely never anticipated the virus would mutate at such breakneck speed. They've opened Pandora's box, sealing their own fate with their own hands. Now those men are shouting defiantly, their eyes gleaming with smug cunning. Easterners, we fear no death. We programmed everything before capture. The virus is already deployed across the city. You're finished. The joy on everyone's faces vanished instantly. Fists clenched as they looked helplessly at my brother. Captain Su, what should we do now? The serum formula I brought back can only cure virus carriers or those in the incubation period, and it must be administered via injection. With the entire city being poisoned, anyone could be carrying or contracting the virus. In this situation, it's extremely difficult to promptly identify the infected from healthy individuals for proper treatment. Evil Eastern Dragon, prepare to face God's divine retribution. In the special interrogation room, the deranged cultists exchanged glances before biting off their tongues without hesitation, their faces contorted with grotesque grins. These goddamn lunatics. Someone cursed under their breath and punched the wall, leaving smears of blood on the concrete. Is there really no way to stop the apocalypse? 10. The high spirits in the Emergency Management Bureau quickly deflated. Amidst the despair, several experts decisively led the team back to the lab, meticulously studying the notes I'd reproduced from memory. Their silence spoke volumes. Several sleepless nights passed. Finally, 2 days before the National College entrance exams, they developed an improved disinfectant targeting non-hosted viruses. That night, over a dozen helicopters took off under cover of darkness, showering the land with the disinfectant that embodied countless people's tireless efforts. The crisis was averted, but those experts collapsed from exhaustion during the intense experiments and were hospitalized. After regaining consciousness, my brother told me they wanted to see me. Accompanied by security personnel, I went there carrying a fruit basket. My palms were sweating nervously before opening the door. I couldn't imagine why these legendary figures in our field wanted to meet me. Are they trying to extract my blood for human regeneration research? I racked my brains trying to come up with a reason to refuse, but when I pushed open the door and saw the scene inside, I froze. These experts, who had been in their prime with jet black hair just days ago, now their hair had turned white overnight. their faces ashen, clear signs their vitality had faded. They huddled together, heatedly debating the serum formula I'd transcribed from memory. Spotting me, they waved with warm smiles. "Thank you, young one," they said. "If you hadn't memorized these records so thoroughly, we'd never have had the chance to stand on the shoulders of giants in this race against the apocalypse." I know, right? Who'd have thought we'd be the ones saving all of humanity? The kind faces gradually overlapped with the blood-stained photographs in the files. I stared at them blankly, tears streaming uncontrollably down my face. No, it's me who should thank you. They weren't standing on the shoulders of giants. They themselves were the giants. 11. The day before the college entrance exam, just like in my past life, my brother personally took me to familiarize myself with the test location. He stood frozen before the classroom door, staring at the exam hall number in disbelief. Examination Hall C-181, Singji Middle School campus, just one room away from the zombie-infested exam hall in his past life. My brother completely lost his composure, pulling at me while babbling incessantly. "Xinhue, why not take the exam next year instead? You're still young. Spend another year at home with mom and dad. What if they release some new upgraded virus strain? I've got a mission tomorrow. Won't be able to look after you." I pulled his sleeve with mixed amusement and exasperation. "Bro, have some faith in yourself and the team. Frankly, you've turned the entire city upside down these past days. Every potential threat has been neutralized. The latest disinfectant formulas and serum recipes have already been distributed nationwide. What else could possibly worry you?" My brother glared at me, his lips pressed into a thin, tense line. "But, no buts." I cut him off, tilting my chin defiantly. "Don't underestimate me. Last time around, I escaped that exam hall single-handedly and saved dozens on my way out. Even if something really happens, I can protect myself." I stopped in my tracks, staring in disbelief at my brother's reddening eyes. "I know, but the thought of you being in danger makes me uneasy. Seria, I failed to protect you in our past life. I'm sorry." I froze for a moment, feeling my eyes grow moist. "What nonsense are you spouting, if we're counting properly? I'm older than you now. Call me sis." "Oh really, such disrespect. You're asking for a lesson." My brother's face darkened as he made to pinch my ear. Amidst the playful scuffle, Huashin's message came through. "Su Xinhue, where have you moved to? Are you really this upset just because I'm dating Xiao Xian? If you miss tomorrow's college entrance exam, consider this my final warning." The smile faded from my face. My brother came over too, seeing my conflicted expression. He patted my shoulder and said with a laugh, "Go ahead and post it. Just don't reveal any official plans." Well, we shouldn't interfere with others' karma. Giving appropriate warnings is just basic human decency for any compassionate person, I muttered. "If you survive the apocalypse, people are gonna call you a bleeding heart." My brother leaned against the wall with a hearty laugh. "So what? Your brother here has a clear conscience." I chuckled along, then after a moment's thought, typed out a line. "Huashin, there won't be any apocalypse. I'll keep taking the exams." Tap send, then block Huashin's number for good. His hatred for me now is real. His twisted soul is real. But so were those 10 years we walked side by side in our past life. Though his words didn't match his intentions and he had ulterior motives, he genuinely saved my life countless times in our past existence. 12. The next morning at the school gate, I unexpectedly spotted Xiao Xian in the crowd. She still carried that same haughty demeanor, shooting me an icy glance. She raised an eyebrow and snapped, "What are you staring at, like you've never seen me before?" I voiced my confusion. "Aren't you skipping the college entrance exam to be with Huashin?" Xiao Xian rolled her eyes. "After studying seriously for 3 years and competing with you all this time, it'd be such a waste not to take the test. As for Huashin, if even you wouldn't keep him, what kind of catch could he possibly be? Just humored him with a few days of playing house, that's all." "You really think I'm stupid? That actually makes sense." I'm at a loss for words. Seeing me speechless, Xiao Xian hummed a tune and walked toward the exam hall. As she passed by me, for some reason, she stopped again. "By the way, I knew you could reprint the exam admission ticket. Just messing with you that day. My bad." "Sorry," I nodded. "No worries. Not like I plan to forgive you anyway, as if I care." She walked off with her nose in the air, shaking my head helplessly. I turned to leave when I suddenly sensed a pair of sinister eyes fixed upon me. Glancing around, a shadowy figure darted past and vanished into thin air. A familiar inner voice drifted from afar. "So Xiao Xian is just another gold digger. How could I have misjudged her? No wonder she ended up dying so miserably in that zombie horde. She totally deserved it." What did Su Jinyue's message yesterday mean? Could she have also been reborn and altered the future? No, impossible. If she truly had memories of her past life, she'd have lost her mind seeing me with Xia Xian. The apocalypse is definitely coming. This will be my most efficient ticket to change my fate and climb the social ladder. I must seize this opportunity with everything I've got. If Su Jinyue is still alive by then and begs me, maybe I'll consider saving her again. You can't reason with those hellbent on destruction. I exhaled slowly, flashed a smile at my homeroom teacher, and strode confidently into the examination hall. 13, June 7, 2025, 9:55 a.m. Beijing time. Amidst the gentle patter of rain, I looked up from Lao Shi's The Drum Singers and glanced at the clock above the classroom doorway. The second hand ticks forward frame by frame. I found myself holding my breath without realizing it, just like in my past life. Proctors occasionally walked by outside the window, unlike before. They were now accompanied by 2 armed police officers with holstered pistols, ready for the worst-case scenario. A faint click sounded, the clock struck 9:56, a breeze swept by, carrying a misty drizzle that brushed against my ears. No screams, no chaos, nor oceans of crimson blood, only the sound of rain and the scratching of pen on paper filled the air. Everyone's hard work truly changed everything. The apocalypse will never come again, I smiled, wiped the tears from the corners of my eyes, and buried myself in the test again. This time, I finally finished that college entrance exam paper and turned in an answer I was proud of. 3 days later, I walked out of the exam hall to find my brother waiting at the school gate. On our way home, my brother asked me, "Has Huixin contacted you?" I opened my phone to a flood of unread messages. June 7, 2025, 9:16 a.m. You actually went to take the college entrance exam. Can't save those hellbent on destruction, Su Jinyue. If you beg me now, I might still consider saving you. June 7, 2025, 9:56 a.m. What's going on? Why hasn't the apocalypse started yet? You've been reborn too. What did you do? June 8, 2025, 16:37. If we get another life, wait for me. I'll find you no matter what. You'd better pray we never meet again, or I'll tear you limb from limb. The last message came through at 10:30 this morning. I was wrong. Can you forgive me and lend me another 2 million? My brother sighed. Huixin's 1 million loan ballooned to 2 million in just 7 days. When he borrowed the money, he was so cocky thinking the apocalypse was inevitable. That's why the loan sharks had it out for him. They came collecting the moment the deadline hit, when Huixin couldn't pay and arrogantly thought his reinforced house was impenetrable. It sent those thugs into a rage. They smashed through the wall and forced their way in. My brother paused, seeing my calm expression before continuing. Huixin got into a fight with them. By the time our people arrived, there were 2 dead and 3 injured. He took a severe blow to the head and is still hospitalized. The doctors say he might end up in a vegetative state, and Shui is on her way back now. Do you want to go see him? I shook my head. No. We're nothing to each other anymore. I want nothing more to do with anything related to Huixin. My brother nodded understandingly. Under the amber sunset, with the storm cleared, we walked home laughing. 2 weeks later, when the college entrance exam results came out, I barely made Tsinghua University's cutoff score from last year. The whole family was thrilled for me, and I even got a call from the admissions office. Hearing the gentle voice of the staff member on the other end, I declined with a smile. Without hesitation, I followed my brother's footsteps and applied to the People's Public Security University. My parents were surprised, but my brother had seen it coming. We exchanged knowing smiles. Some things need no words. I've witnessed the light, chased after it, and now given the chance, I want to become that very light. Story 2. The Shin family had only one male heir for 7 generations. And Shin Zhao was frail and unlikely to father children. Shin's father spent a fortune to marry me as his daughter-in-law, solely because I possessed the rare fertility saint body. After marriage, Shin Zhao's health improved, and I became pregnant without difficulty. Overjoyed, Shin's father promised me 10% of the family shares. On the night of the victory celebration, Shin Zhao, fueled by alcohol, kicked me square in the stomach. You vile woman, his eyes burned with hatred. If it weren't for your scheming, how could Su Ruohang have married the wrong man and been beaten to death? I collapsed in a pool of blood, my eyes wide open in death. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day Shin's father came to propose marriage. Looking at the elegant and composed Shin Nanlang before me, I smiled lightly and spoke. Mr. Shin, rather than pinning your hopes on your sickly son to carry on the family line, how about I marry you and bear you a few healthy heirs? Excruciating pain exploded from my abdomen, like a sharp knife violently churning inside me. I curled up on the expensive Persian rug in the Shin family villa. desperately protecting my belly with both hands, yet unable to block the relentless kicks. "You bitch, this is all your fault." Shen Zhao's drunken voice came from above me, accompanied by another wave of excruciating pain. Blood gushed out from beneath me, staining the light-colored carpet crimson. I could feel life slowly draining away, along with the 3-month-old little life inside my womb. "If it weren't for you swindling and colluding with others to claim you were a fertility goddess, my father wouldn't have forced me to marry an old woman like you, and Su Ruoheng wouldn't have married the wrong person and ended up beaten to death." Shen Zhao's voice was filled with twisted hatred. My vision began to blur as my consciousness gradually scattered. "So that's how it is. So he's always hated me." The Shen family had only one male heir for 7 generations. Shen Zhao was frail and sickly since childhood, with a constitution prone to fertility difficulties. The Shen family searched everywhere for a woman with excellent fertility, until they found me, what doctors called a naturally blessed womb. The Shen family welcomed me with a lavish bride price. After marrying me, Shen Zhao's health indeed gradually improved, and I successfully became pregnant. Father Shen Nanlang was overjoyed, even promising to give me 10% of the company's shares. Yet all of this became my sin in Shen Zhao's eyes. I opened my mouth, wanting to say something, but only coughed up a mouthful of blood. Darkness surged like a tide, and in my final moments of consciousness, I swore that if there was a next life, man, Mr. Shen has already arrived. Why are you still spacing out? My mother's voice pulled me back from the chaos. I suddenly opened my eyes and found myself sitting in the living room at home, with a steaming cup of tea in front of me. The sunlight outside was bright, shining on my unharmed body. "Is this, 1 year ago, Mr. Shen has come this time to propose marriage on behalf of his son Shen Zhao," Mother whispered to me, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "The Shen family, now that's true aristocracy." My heart pounded wildly as my fingers unconsciously brushed over my flat abdomen. I've been reborn. I've truly been reborn, back to the very day Shen Nanlang first came to propose marriage. Looking up towards the doorway, a tall and straight middle-aged man was stepping inside. Shen Nanlang, 45 years old yet well-maintained, exuded the charm of a mature man in every gesture. He wore a tailored dark gray suit, with deep-set facial features and sharp yet gentle eyes. "Miss Jiang, I've long heard of you," he nodded in greeting, his voice deep and pleasant. "In my past life." I shyly lowered my head and joyfully accepted the arrangement to marry Shen Zhao. But now, I gazed directly at this man who dominates the business world, suddenly flashing a radiant smile. "Mr. Shen, please have a seat." I gesture gracefully, then meet his eyes after he sits down. "I heard your son is in poor health, and the Shen family urgently needs an heir." Shen Nanlang slightly furrows his brows, seemingly surprised by my directness. "My son indeed requires a wife blessed with good fortune." I let out a light chuckle, picking up the teacup to take a sip. "Mr. Shen, rather than pinning your hopes of continuing the family line on your sickly son," I deliberately paused, meeting his gaze, "why don't I marry you instead and bear you several sons?" With a clatter, the teapot in Mother's hands fell to the ground. Shen Nanlang's expression froze, his eyes flashing with shock, bewilderment, followed by deep contemplation. I maintained a smile, knowing my words would detonate like a bomb in the heart of this aristocratic family head with deeply ingrained traditional values. Memories from my past life told me that Shen Nanlang had remained unmarried for years after losing his spouse, not due to lack of desire, but for the sake of family reputation. And now, I could see the flames gradually igniting in his eyes, the longing for an heir, the yearning for youthful vitality, and his stirring interest in my bold proposal. "Miss Jiang, are you serious about this?" His voice carried a hint of hoarseness. "I'm 28 years old and in excellent health. The doctor said I have a rare fertility-friendly constitution," I stated frankly. "Rather than marrying a sickly man who might be completely infertile, I'd rather become your wife directly and bear you healthy heirs." Shen Nanlang's eyes lit up as he scrutinized me carefully, as if appraising a precious collectible. I knew victory was within my grasp. In my past life, the doctor said my constitution not only makes conception easy but also nourishes my partner better than any tonic. For Shen Nanlang, who yearns for heirs and whose health is declining, this was an irresistible temptation. "Dad, what are you doing?" An angry voice came from the doorway. I turned to see Shen Zhao standing at the door, pale-faced with disbelief in his eyes. He looked even frilier than remembered, as if a gust of wind could knock him over. How could my past self have thought such a man was worth entrusting my life to? "She's my fiancé," Shen Zhao burst in, but a single glance from Shen Nanlang pinned him in place. "From today onward, she is your mother." Shen Nanlang's voice brooked no argument. "Miss Jiang is right, the Shen family needs healthy heirs. Watching Shin Zhao's contorted expression, a surge of satisfaction welled up in my heart. The game has only just begun, Shin Zhao. The pain you inflicted on me in our past life, I'll return it 100-fold in this one. That very afternoon, I went to the Civil Affairs Bureau with Shin Nanling. The moment the marriage certificate was in my hands, I knew the gears of fate had turned in a completely different direction. On the first day I moved into the Shin family villa. I summoned the butler to the study. Butler Lin, in his early 50s, had worked for the Shin family for nearly 20 years, his gaze carrying a barely concealed disdain when looking at me. In my past life when I married Shin Zhao, he caused me no small amount of trouble. Butler Lin, starting today, I want to review all staff schedules and payrolls every Monday, sitting in my leather swivel chair. I tapped the desk lightly with my fingertips. Also, compile the detailed household expenses for the past 6 months. I need to review them. Butler Lin's brows furrowed almost imperceptibly. Madam, these matters have always been under my responsibility. The master never concerned himself with such trivial affairs. I smiled faintly. Now I'm managing the household. Is there a problem with that? I wouldn't dare. He lowered his head, but I saw the corner of his mouth twitch. By the way, I added as he turned away. Change the master bedroom sheets to silk, Mr. Shin prefers them. Steward Lin's back stiffened slightly as he bowed in acknowledgement. I knew this news would spread through the Shin household like wildfire. The new mistress not only held authority but had already shared the master's bed. After the butler left, I surveyed the study. In my past life, I was rarely allowed to enter here, but now it has become my center of power. I turned on the computer and pulled up the Shin family's household management system. The password hadn't changed. It was still Shin Zhao's birthday, just like in my past life. Despite Shin Nanling's stern exterior, he truly doted on his only son. The data on the screen made me raise my eyebrows. Just 1 month's flour expenses alone amounted to 50,000, not to mention those premium wines and ingredients. In my past life, I thought the Shin family was simply this extravagant. But now I realized someone was lining their own pockets. I was just recording the suspicious accounts when the door suddenly swung open. Shin Zhao stood at the door, his face dark and gloomy. What do you want? I didn't look up, continuing to stare at the screen. Did you think marrying my father would give you free rein in the Shin family? His voice was low, laced with threat. Only then did I raise my eyes to look at him. Shin Zhao, knocking is the most basic courtesy. Also, you should call me mom, or at least auntie. His face instantly turned ashen as he strode to the desk, slamming both hands on the surface. Stop dreaming, you're just a purchased breeding machine. I met his gaze calmly. Then what are you? A worthless man who can't even reproduce. Shin Zhao's pupils constricted violently, his right hand raised to strike. I didn't flinch, merely raising my voice. Mr. Shin, your son is about to hit your wife. Shin Zhao's hand froze midair as he turned to look at the doorway. Shin Nanling stood there at some unknown moment, his face terrifyingly dark. Get out, he said to Shin Zhao, his voice as cold as ice. Shin Zhao withdrew his hand and said through gritted teeth, Dad, she's investigating our family accounts. She must have ulterior motives. I ordered the investigation. Shin Nanling walked in and stood beside me. Your mother is currently in charge of household affairs. Any problems, mother? Shin Zhao laughed shrilly. She's only 3 years older than me. Shin Nanling's gaze turned sharp. Age isn't the issue. She's my lawfully wedded wife, which makes her your mother. If I hear any more disrespect from you, I'll freeze your credit cards. Shin Zhao opened his mouth but ultimately said nothing, slamming the door as he left. Don't mind him. Shin Nanling turned to me. He's been spoiled. I smiled. It's alright. I'll be a good stepmother. Especially when this good stepmother can push him into the fire, I added silently. Shin Nanling nodded in satisfaction, then asked, any findings from the account check? I've identified several anomalies. Here, and here, the expenditures are significantly higher than market prices. Also, I pointed at the screen, there were 3 large purchases last month, but the household inventory records don't match. Shin Nanling's gaze turned cold. Steward Lin, don't alert the enemy yet, I said softly. I'll continue investigating to obtain solid evidence. He gave me an appreciative look. You're more capable than I imagined. Just doing my duty, I said modestly, then changed the subject. By the way, I've looked into the Su family's background. Su Ruoheng is 24 this year, just returned from studying in England, comes from a clean family background. And the marriage alliance with Su Group would also benefit the Shin family, Shin Nanling said thoughtfully. You're really quite concerned about Shin Zhao's marriage. Of course, I smiled virtuously. Although he doesn't acknowledge me as his mother, I've always treated him as my son. Shin Nanling movedly grasped my hand. It's rare to find such kindness in your heart. I'll contact the Su family to arrange a meeting. watching his retreating figure. A cold smirk curled at the corner of my lips. In our past life, Su Ruohang was the white moonlight in Xin Zhao's heart. But this young mistress was spoiled and willful, looking down most on weak and incapable men. Marrying such a woman to Xin Zhao would be more satisfying than any revenge. At dinner time, I changed into a dark green cheongsam, pinned up my hair, and wore the jade earrings Shen Nanlang gave me. The reflection in the mirror showed an elegant and dignified woman, every bit the matriarch of a wealthy family. In the dining room, several close relatives of the Shen family had already taken their seats. Xin Zhao sat in the lower seat, a flicker of disgust flashing through his eyes when he saw me. I pretended not to notice and walked straight to the seat beside Shen Nanlang, the position that only Xin Zhao's mother could occupy in my previous life. I heard the madam is checking the accounts. Xin Zhao's aunt Shenli spoke with sarcasm, eager to seize power so soon after entering the household. I leisurely scooped a spoonful of soup. Auntie, you jest. Sharing a husband's burdens is a wife's duty. I turned to Shen Nanlang. Isn't that right, darling? Shen Nanlang nodded. Man is very capable and has identified some issues. I'll handle this matter. Shen Li's expression changed slightly, not daring to say more. By the way, I suddenly seemed to remember something and turned to Xin Zhao. I've discussed your marriage with your father. Miss Su from the Su family will be visiting this weekend. So prepare yourself. Xin Zhao's fork clattered onto the plate. What, Miss Su Ruohang? Haven't you always admired her? I feigned surprise. Or did I remember wrong? Xin Zhao's expression was priceless. First shock, then doubt, finally twisting into a distorted joy. You want me and Ruohang too. The Su family is well matched in social status, and Miss Su is both talented and beautiful. Shen Nanlang chimed in. Your mother's proposal is excellent. At the mention of mother, Xin Zhao's face darkened again, but Su Ruohang's name clearly prevented him from losing his temper. He lowered his head to eat, but the tips of his ears turned red. I took small bites of the foie gras, sneering inwardly. Just wait, Xin Zhao, your dream will soon turn into a nightmare. The weekend arrived quickly. Su Ruohang came to visit accompanied by his parents, too. She was wearing a designer dress and 10-centimeter high heels. With makeup so exquisite it looked like she was ready to walk the red carpet. Hello, Uncle Shen, she called out sweetly as soon as she entered, then paused noticeably upon seeing me. And this is my wife, Jiang Man, Shen Nanlang introduced. Man, this is Miss Su Ruohang. I smiled and nodded. Miss Su is indeed as beautiful as the rumors say. Su Ruohang forced a smile, but his gaze kept drifting towards Xin Zhao. Xin Zhao had dressed up specially today, but his pale complexion and frail frame appeared diminished next to the towering Shen Nanlang. During the luncheon, Su Ruohang's parents showed great enthusiasm for this marriage arrangement. Though the Su family could be considered wealthy, they still fell short when compared to the Shen clan. Ruohang has been spoiled since childhood, but she has a kind heart, Madame Su said with a smile. She's about the same age as Xin Zhao. They'll surely get along well. I noticed Su Ruohang's smile seemed somewhat forced. When Xin Zhao attentively poured wine for her, she slightly furrowed her brows and subtly shifted her body away. What did Miss Su study in England? I asked at an opportune moment. Art history, she answered with pride in her voice. I particularly love Victorian-era paintings. What a coincidence. Xin Zhao also enjoys art, I said with a smile. He's collected quite a few reproductions of famous paintings. Right, Xin Zhao. Xin Zhao froze for a moment before hurriedly nodding. Why yes, I especially like that Mona Lisa. Su Ruohang's mouth twitched. That's from the Renaissance period, by Da Vinci. The atmosphere turned awkward for a moment. Xin Zhao flushed red, while the disdain in Su Ruohang's eyes became even more apparent. After the luncheon, while the elders were chatting, I deliberately steered Su Ruohang and Xin Zhao to take a walk in the garden. Through the floor-to-ceiling window, I saw Su Ruohang walking ahead with arms crossed, while Xin Zhao followed step by step like an attendant. It seems they're getting along well, Shen Nanlang remarked with satisfaction. I smiled faintly. Yes, they make a perfect match. A month later, Xin Zhao and Su Ruohang's engagement ceremony was grandly held. As the lady of the Shen household, I handled everything meticulously, from venue decoration to guest lists, leaving no detail unattended. Shen Nanlang grew increasingly reliant on me, even publicly referring to me as his virtuous helpmate. At the engagement banquet, Xin Zhao wore a custom-tailored suit, yet still couldn't carry off that upright demeanor. Su Ruohang was stunning in a white dress, but the reluctance in her eyes was already impossible to conceal. Congratulations, Xin Zhao. His cousin Shen Ming patted his shoulder with a wink. Su Ruohang is famously fiery-tempered. Can you really handle her? Xin Zhao forced a smile. Ruohang is actually very gentle, really. Shin Ming motioned with his chin toward the distance. Then why has she been chatting so happily with that model all this time? Following his gaze, I saw Su Ruohang laughing and chatting animatedly with a tall, handsome young man, occasionally placing her hand on his arm. Shin Zhao's expression instantly darkened. I'm going to check it out, he said through gritted teeth. I quietly followed, hiding behind a pillar to observe. Shin Zhao walked over to Su Ruohang's side and whispered something. Su Ruohang frowned. What's wrong with me chatting with friends? Is it any of your business? But today is our engagement day. Shin Zhao's voice carried a pleading tone. So what? Su Ruohang sneered. Should I kneel down and thank you for your great favor? She deliberately raised her voice. If it weren't for my father forcing me, who would want to marry a sickly weakling like you? Shin Zhao stood frozen in place as if struck by lightning. Su Ruohang walked off arm in arm with that model, leaving without a second glance. I appeared at just the right moment, pretending to have just passed by. Shin Zhao, what's wrong? You look so pale. He suddenly turned to me, his eyes filled with resentment. Are you satisfied now? Is this the wonderful marriage you found for me? I put on an innocent face. What's wrong? Doesn't Miss Su like you very much? Like, Shin Zhao sneered. She looks down on me completely. It's all your fault. You did this on purpose, Shin Zhao. Shin Nanling's voice came from behind. Mind your manners. Shin Zhao closed his mouth, but the fury in his eyes was almost palpable. I held Shin Nanling's arm and whispered, the child might be too nervous. After all, it's their first engagement. Shin Nanling patted my hand and said, you're always so understanding. That evening, the Shin family held a small family banquet to celebrate the engagement. Shin Zhao excused himself from attending due to discomfort, while Su Ruohang did show up but remained absent-minded throughout, constantly checking his phone. I heard Shin Zhao has always been in poor health. Su Ruohang suddenly asked during the meal, what exactly is the issue? The dining table fell silent. Shin Nanling set down his wine glass. He's just somewhat frail. Proper rest will help him recover. Is that so? Su Ruohang raised an eyebrow. Then why did my friend say he has long-term medical records at Rinha Hospital, and that he... She suddenly stopped, as if realizing she'd said too much. Shin Nanling's gaze turned sharp. Who is this friend of yours? Su Ruohang flustered. Just, a friend who studies medicine. I mediated at the right moment. Miss Su is just concerned about Shin Zhao. Here, try this lobster, flown in fresh from Australia this morning. After the dinner, Shin Nanling summoned me to the study. Su Ruohang isn't simple. She's investigating Shin Zhao. It's normal for young people to get to know each other before marriage. I poured him a cup of tea. Shin Nanling shook his head. It's not that simple. I suspect she has ulterior motives. He pondered for a moment. But what's done is done. The engagement can't be cancelled. The Shin family can't afford to lose face. I secretly rejoiced in my heart. This is exactly what I wanted, a marriage full of suspicion and resentment. By the way, Shin Nanling suddenly changed the subject. How have you been feeling lately? Any particular reactions? I knew what he was asking. Since getting married, we've hardly taken any contraceptive measures. In my past life, I became pregnant within 3 months of marrying Shin Zhao. This lifetime should be similar. No signs yet. I touched my flat abdomen. But the doctor said my constitution makes conception easy. It shouldn't take long. A glimmer of anticipation flashed in Shin Nanling's eyes. Just name any nourishing supplements you need. I'll have them prepared. You're so good to me. I leaned against his shoulder, concealing the coldness in my eyes. The next morning, I deliberately ran into Shin Zhao when he woke up. He had dark circles under his eyes, clearly having stayed up all night. Shin Zhao, why didn't you come for dinner last night? I asked with concern. Are you feeling unwell? He looked at me coldly. Stop pretending. I know you orchestrated all this. I blinked. Design what? Ruhing never wanted to marry me. He growled in a low voice. You knew all along, didn't you? I sighed. Shin Zhao, marriage is a matter of parental orders and matchmakers' words. Miss Su might need time to adjust, but feelings can develop. I deliberately paused. Or perhaps you wish to follow your father's example and marry a wife 17 years your junior. Shin Zhao's face turned livid. His fists clenched audibly. One day, I'll make you regret this. Jiang Manman, mind your tone, son. I smiled. Don't forget, I'm your mother now. Watching his furious retreating figure, my mood soared. This is just the beginning. Shin Zhao, every ounce of pain you inflicted on me in our past life, I'll return to you bit by bit. Returning to the bedroom, I stood before the full-length mirror and gently touched my abdomen. Soon, very soon there will be good news. When that time comes, Shin Zhao's status in the Shin family will plummet, and only then can my revenge plan truly unfold. The morning sunlight filtered through the sheer curtains into the bedroom. I opened my eyes to find Shin Nanling already up and gone from beside me. reaching for the thermometer on the nightstand. I habitually began monitoring my basal body temperature, a crucial indicator for conception. The thermometer shows 36.7 degrees, 3 degrees higher than yesterday. The corners of my mouth involuntarily turned upward, based on past experience. This is a sign that ovulation is approaching. Rolling out of bed, I took the prenatal nutrition pills from the drawer and swallowed them with warm water. In the mirror, my complexion looked rosy. My skin smooth. My 28-year-old body is at the optimal age for childbearing. I gently caress my flat belly, imagining the new life that will soon grow within. In my past life, I only carried one child before Xin Zhao killed me. In this life, I will make the Xin family change completely. My phone vibrates. A message from the private investigator. Targets recent activity records and medical files obtained. Encrypted data sent to your secure email, with a faint smile. I lock the bathroom door and open my laptop. The file package from the detective contained Xin Zhao's recent movement records, call logs, and, what concerned me most, his complete medical records from Rinhe Hospital. The medical records were dense with professional terminology, but a few key phrases jumped out: oligospermia, low sperm motility, congenital physical weakness. Flipping to the end, the doctor's conclusion was particularly glaring: natural conception probability below 5%. Assisted reproductive technology recommended. I let out a cold laugh, continuing to browse through the materials sent by the detective. Xin Zhao's recent call records caught my attention. One number appeared frequently, mostly late at night. I noted down the number and sent it to another contact. Find out who owns this number, the sooner the better. Just as I closed the laptop, there was a knock at the door. Madam, breakfast is ready. It was the voice of the maid. Xiaohe, got it. I'll be right down. In the dining room, Xin Nanlang was reading a financial newspaper with black coffee and whole wheat toast in front of him. Seeing me enter, he put down the newspaper. Did you sleep well? Very good. I walked over to him and gave him a light kiss on the cheek. 3. This action had become a habit, though initially it was just for the servants to see. Xin Nanlang handed me a document. Take a look at this. I opened the file. It was information about a medical equipment company that the Xin Group planned to acquire. In the previous life, this acquisition deal failed due to the other party concealing patent disputes, causing the Xin Group to lose tens of millions. There's a problem. I pointed at the patent list. The patent for this core product expires next year, and I've heard there's an ongoing infringement lawsuit. Xin Nanlang raised an eyebrow. How do you know that? I have a college classmate working at that company. I casually made up an excuse. The acquisition price should be reduced by at least 30%. And we need to add indemnity clauses for patent disputes. Xin Nanlang nodded thoughtfully. I'll have the legal department reevaluate. His gaze held a hint of admiration as he looked at me. You always manage to surprise me. I smiled without speaking. This is just the beginning. Xin Nanlang, in my past life. Being constantly exposed to Xin Zhao's influence, I became thoroughly familiar with the operations of the Xin Group. In this life, this knowledge will become my sharp weapon to establish myself in the Xin family. Xin Zhao staggered into the dining room, his face as pale as a ghost. He had dark circles under his eyes and was still wearing yesterday's clothes, all crumpled as if he had slept on the sofa, staying up late again. Xin Nanlang frowned. Xin Zhao didn't answer. Walking straight to the coffee machine and pouring himself a full cup of black coffee. What about Miss Su? I asked deliberately. Why didn't she come for breakfast together? Xin Zhao's hand trembled slightly, spilling coffee on his skin, yet he seemed unfazed by the heat. None of your business, Xin Zhao. Xin Nanlang shouted sternly. Apologize to your mother. She's not my mother. Xin Zhao whirled around, slamming the coffee cup onto the table with a bang. Don't you find it disgusting to marry a woman only 3 years older than me? The servants in the dining room all lowered their heads, pretending not to hear. Xin Nanlang's face darkened ominously as he slowly rose to his feet. Come to my study, now. Xin Zhao gave me a provocative glance before following his father out. I spread jam leisurely while pricking up my ears to listen to the commotion upstairs. Soon, faint sounds of roaring and objects being thrown could be heard. 20 minutes later, Xin Zhao stormed out of the study in a rage, slamming the door behind him. When Xin Nanlang came downstairs, his expression had returned to calm, but the veins on his temples betrayed his anger. He needs to reflect seriously, Xin Nanlang said coldly. I've frozen his credit card for 3 months. I handed him a freshly brewed cup of coffee. He's still young and doesn't know better. 25 is still young. Xin Nanlang shook his head. He's been spoiled by his mother. I didn't respond. In Xin Zhao's previous life, his mother passed away early. And Shin Nanling never remarried, spoiling his only son rotten, until my appearance disrupted this balance. By the way, Shin Nanling changed the subject. There's a charity banquet tonight. Will you accompany me? The honor is mine, I smiled. In my past life, I was never brought to such occasions. Shin Zhao always attended alone, using my humble origins and lack of etiquette as an excuse. In the afternoon, while I was selecting an evening gown in the dressing room, my phone rang. It was the reply about the number check. The number belongs to Lin Jifeng, vice president of Shin Group, who has a close relationship with the target, Lin Jifeng. I narrowed my eyes. Shin Zhao's trusted aide in my past life, who later became his accomplice in harming me. I never realized their collusion started this early. In the evening, I wore a burgundy mermaid gown and put on the diamond necklace Shin Nanling gave me. The reflection in the mirror dazzles with radiance, completely concealing my once ordinary origins. Beautiful. Shin Nanling stood at the doorway, his eyes flashing with admiration. I held his arm as we descended the stairs, just in time to encounter Su Ruoheng, who had just returned home. She was dressed in a crop top and hot pants, a full nightclub outfit, and visibly froze for a moment upon seeing us. Are you going out, Miss Su? I asked gently, meeting a friend. She said nonchalantly, though her eyes kept darting toward Shin Nanling. I noticed Shin Nanling frowned slightly. Where's Shin Zhao? Who knows? Su Ruoheng pursed her lips, probably drowning his sorrows at some bar. She jingled her car keys. I won't disturb you too. Watching her sway her hips as she walked away, a faint smile curled at the corners of my mouth. It seems this loving engaged couple's life is quite eventful. The charity gala was held at the Shangri-La Hotel, with most attendees being prominent figures from the business world. Shin Nanling became the center of attention the moment he entered, with people continuously coming over to exchange pleasantries. As for me, being Mrs. Shen, I naturally received unprecedented attention. So this is Mrs. Shen, indeed young and beautiful. A bejeweled woman scrutinized me. I heard you have a special constitution. I maintained my smile. You flatter me, Mrs. Li. Mr. Shen and I simply had fate bring us together. Fate, she smiled meaningfully. The Shin family has had 7 generations of single heirs, and Shin Zhao's health isn't good. The chairman must be getting anxious. I pretended not to catch her barbed tone. Speaking of Shin Zhao, his wedding with Miss Su is scheduled for next month. We'd be honored by your presence. Her expression froze for a moment, clearly not expecting me to be so direct. Shin Nanling interjected at the right moment. Man cares deeply about Shin Zhao, even personally handling the wedding arrangements. The surrounding executives exchanged glances, their attitude towards me noticeably more respectful. It seems Shin Nanling's public statement has had an effect. Halfway through the dinner, I excused myself to touch up my makeup and went to the restroom. Just as I stepped out of the banquet hall, I spotted a familiar figure, Lin Jifeng, hiding in a corner while making a phone call. Don't worry, I've already calmed Shin Zhao down. He lowered his voice. No matter how much Shin Nanling dotes on that woman, it's useless as long as Shin Zhao remains the sole heir. I quietly retreated around the corner and only came out after he left. It seems Shin Zhao and his confidant are already conspiring. In my previous life, they gradually undermined Shin Nanling and ultimately caused my death. This lifetime I'll repay them double. On the way home, Shin Nanling received a call from the company about new developments in the acquisition case. After hanging up, he rarely showed a smile. They agreed to a 35% price reduction and accepted the exemption clause. Man, you've done a great job. I just mentioned it casually, I said modestly. No, you have great business acumen. Shin Nanling looked at me seriously. Starting tomorrow, come to the company with me. I'd like to hear your thoughts on several projects. This was exactly what I wanted. More opportunities to engage with the core business of the Shin Group. The honor is mine, I said softly. For the next 2 weeks, I accompanied Shin Nanling to the company every day, attending meetings and reviewing documents, gradually gaining an understanding of the Shin Group's operations. Meanwhile, the private investigator kept sending updates on Shin Zhao and Su Ruoheng's latest activities. After Shin Zhao's credit cards were suspended, he began meeting frequently with Lin Jifeng. Su Ruoheng was photographed entering and exiting high-end clubs with different men, including that model friend. The most dramatic part was when the detective captured Shin Zhao waiting outside the hotel for 3 hours, only to see Su Ruoheng come out arm in arm with another man. The expression on Shin Zhao's face in the photos could only be described as utter despair. I carefully preserved these materials, waiting for the perfect moment to use them. Right now, there's something more important. My ovulation period has arrived. That night, I deliberately changed into the silk nightgown I bought recently and sprayed Shin Nanling's favorite perfume. When he pushed open the bedroom door, He visibly froze for a moment. Is today some special occasion? He asked, his gaze lingering on me. I walked up to him and helped untie his tie. The doctor said these few days are the optimal conception period. Shen Nanling's eyes darkened as he reached out to caress my face. Are you sure you're ready? Didn't I marry you precisely for this? I stood on tiptoe and whispered in his ear. Shen Nanling, though much older, was a considerate partner who made everything thoroughly enjoyable. Moonlight streams through the window like water as I gently caress my abdomen. I hope to succeed in one fell swoop this time. Only with a child can my position in the Shen family be truly secure. A month later, the family doctor confirmed my pregnancy. Shen Nanling was overjoyed and immediately ordered the nursery to be redecorated, even assigning me a dedicated nutritionist and bodyguard. I want to host a banquet, he said excitedly, to announce this wonderful news to everyone. I leaned against his chest. Whatever you say. The banquet was scheduled for the weekend, with all of the Shen family's relatives and business partners receiving invitations. Su Ruohang reluctantly accompanied Shen Zhao to the event, standing together yet as strangers without any interaction. Midway through the banquet, Shen Nanling tapped his champagne glass, bringing the room to silence. Thank you all for coming, he announced, scanning the crowd with a booming voice. Today, I have joyous news to share. My wife Jiang Manman is pregnant. The Shen family will soon welcome a new generation. Thunderous applause erupted as guests rushed forward to offer congratulations. I stood beside Shen Nanling, accepting everyone's flattery, but my eyes remained fixed on Shen Zhao in the corner. His face turned deathly pale the moment he heard the news, and the wine glass in his hand fell to the ground with a clink, spilling red wine everywhere. Lin Jifeng quickly pulled him away, but that momentary expression was already deeply imprinted in my mind. Shock, fear, despair, and hatred. Su Ruohang, however, brightened up and quickly walked up to me. Congratulations, Auntie. She deliberately emphasized the word and, adding, I hope it's a healthy baby. Thank you, I smiled. Both Nanling and I hope to have several children. After all, the Shen family has vast properties to manage. Shen Nanling wrapped his arm around my shoulder. The doctor said Man has a unique constitution. It's very likely twins. The guests gasped in surprise once again. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Shen Zhao standing in the distance. His gaze dark and sinister as it fixed on my abdomen. That look sent a chill down my spine, but it was quickly replaced by a sense of satisfaction. After the banquet, Shen Nanling was pulled aside by several executives to discuss business, while I excused myself, citing early pregnancy discomfort, and returned to my room to rest. Just as I reached the corner of the staircase, a hand suddenly grabbed my wrist and yanked me into the dark, small parlor. Shen Zhao's face looked particularly ferocious in the dim light. You wretch, did you think getting pregnant would let you rest easy? I shook off his hand and calmly straightened my sleeves. Watch your language, Shen Zhao. I'm now carrying the Shen family's heir, he sneered. Who knows if it's not some bastard child? Would you dare say that to your father's face? I retorted. Or could it be you're jealous? After all, the doctor said you'd likely never have children of your own. Shen Zhao's pupils constricted sharply. You, how did you know? I know far more than you can imagine. I took a step forward, though shorter in stature. My presence was undiminished. For instance, your conspiracy with Lin Jifeng to sideline your father, or how Su Ruohang meets that model at the Four Seasons Hotel every Wednesday. Shen Zhao's face paled. You've been spying on me, just protecting my family. I smiled. Shen Zhao, accept your fate. From now on, your standing in the Shen family will only decline, but don't worry, as your mother, I'll take good care of you. He was trembling with rage, raising his hand to hit me. I was prepared and quickly stepped back while pressing the play button on my phone. Shen Nanling's voice came from the speaker. Man, where are you? Shen Zhao's hand froze midair. I shook my phone. Your father is looking for me. Do you want him to see how you're treating his wife and unborn child? Shen Zhao gnashed his teeth and lowered his hand. We'll see about this. Watching his disheveled figure retreat into the distance, I let out a long sigh of relief. This is just the first round. Shen Zhao, once the child in my womb is born, your good days will truly be over. Returning to the bedroom, I stood before the floor-to-ceiling window, overlooking the Shen family estate. Under the moonlight, a familiar figure was storming toward the garage. It was Shen Zhao. Minutes later, his sports car roared out through the gates. I gently caressed my still flat abdomen, a cold smirk curling at the corner of my lips. Ms. Jiang, please lie flatter. In the top-tier VIP examination room of Renha Hospital, cold ultrasound gel was spread across my lower abdomen. Shen Nanling stood beside the examination bed, his eyes fixed unblinkingly on the ultrasound screen. Mr. Shen, you might need to brace yourself. Director Li, with graying hair, adjusted his glasses. His voice tinged with barely suppressed astonishment. Shen Nanlang's body tensed instantly. What's wrong? Is there a problem with the baby? Director Lee didn't answer immediately, instead moving the probe to make the image on the screen clearer. I tilted my head to look. Several small dots were flashing rhythmically on the black and white image. This is, I feigned surprise, covering my mouth, for fetal heartbeats. Director Lee's voice trembled slightly. Ms. Jiang is carrying quadruplets. Shen Nanlang suddenly gripped the examination bed railing, his knuckles turning white. F4, yes, 4 separate gestational sacs, all developing well. Director Lee adjusted the image. Look here, here, and here, all 4 heartbeats are strong. I stole a glance at Shen Nanlang's expression, watching as the shock on his face gradually transformed into ecstasy, even bringing tears to the corners of his eyes. The 45-year-old middle-aged man was now overjoyed like a child. Man. He grabbed my hand abruptly. Did you hear that? 4. The Shen family is about to have 4 heirs at once. I nodded with a smile, but inside, I was sneering. In my past life, I only conceived 1 child before Shen Zhao killed me. This lifetime, I'll make the Shen family completely change, replacing that good-for-nothing with 4 healthy children. This is truly a miracle, Director Lee exclaimed. The odds of naturally conceiving quadruplets are only 1 in 700,000 ms. Zhang's physique is indeed extraordinary. Shen Nanlang suddenly turned and said to his assistant standing in the corner, contact attorney Zhou immediately. I'm transferring 10% of Shen Corporation's shares to my wife. Get it done today. The assistant froze momentarily before swiftly pulling out his phone. I feigned surprise. Nanlang, this is too valuable. No, this is far from enough, Shen Nanlang said excitedly. You've given the Shen family a future, given me hope. His voice choked up. This was the first time I'd seen this hardened businessman show such raw emotion. After the examination, Shen Nanlang carefully helped me sit up, personally wiping the ultrasound gel from my abdomen as if I were some fragile treasure. Mr. Shen, a quadruplet pregnancy carries higher risks and requires extra caution, Director Lee said gravely. I recommend weekly checkups to closely monitor the baby's condition. Of course, Shen Nanlang nodded. I'll arrange for the best medical team to be on standby 24/7. Stepping out of the examination room, he saw an unexpected figure in the hallway, Shen Zhao, leaning against the wall. His face was as dark as storm clouds gathering before the tempest. What brings you here? Shen Nanlang frowned. Shen Zhao forced a stiff smile. I heard about today's prenatal checkup. So I came to show some concern for my little siblings. The last few words seemed to be squeezed through clenched teeth. I keenly noticed his right hand gripping the phone tightly, knuckles turning white. Perfect timing, I smiled. Just finished the checkup, and I have good news to share. Shen Nanlang couldn't wait to interject. Man is carrying quadruplets. The Shen family will have 4 children at once. Shen Zhao's expression froze instantly, a flicker of terror flashing through his eyes. Followed by deep resentment, he forced a smile. Congratulations. His voice was as dry as sandpaper. By the way, I asked casually, is Shen Zhao here to see Director Lee? Shen Zhao stiffened. No, at that moment, a young doctor in a white coat hurried over from the end of the corridor. He visibly froze upon seeing our group, especially when his gaze flickered upon noticing Shen Zhao. Dr. Zhang. I accurately called out his name, in my past life. It was he who helped Shen Zhao forge my false pregnancy with Sacred Constitution certificate. Dr. Zhang's expression changed. You know me. I heard you're an expert in reproductive medicine. I smiled. I happen to have some questions to consult. Could we speak privately? Shen Zhao suddenly interrupted. Dr. Zhang is very busy. Let's do this another day. Just a few minutes, I insisted, while giving a meaningful glance to the bodyguard standing nearby. This bodyguard was newly assigned to me by Shen Nanlang, a retired Special Forces soldier with exceptional skills. Dr. Zhang hesitated and glanced at Shen Zhao, but ultimately followed me to the corridor corner. Shen Zhao wanted to follow, but was stopped by Shen Nanlang, who asked about company matters. Dr. Zhang, I lowered my voice. What did Shen Zhao ask you to do today? Dr. Zhang's face turned pale instantly. I don't understand what you mean. Stop pretending, I sneered. He asked you to tamper with the medical report, didn't he? Like fabricating fetal abnormalities, or reducing the number of fetuses. Dr. Zhang's legs began trembling. Madam, I took an envelope from my bag and pulled out photos, taken by a private investigator, showing Dr. Zhang having a secret meeting with Shen Zhao at a cafe. 2 options, I said calmly. First, I hand these over to Mr. Shen, and you'll not only lose your job but may also face legal action. Second, You tell me Shen Zhao's entire plan, and I'll act like nothing ever happened. Dr. Zhang's forehead broke out in cold sweat. Young Master Shen, he told me to mark single fetus developmental disorder on your examination report, he said that way your father wouldn't pay as much attention. Just as I thought, I sneered. What else did he promise you? After the Shen Group's new hospital is completed, make me the department head. Dr. Zhang was almost in tears. Madam. I was momentarily confused. I beg you, now, go tell Mr. Shen the truth, I commanded. Otherwise, I understand. Dr. Zhang nodded repeatedly. When we returned to Shen Nanling's side, Shen Zhao was explaining some project progress. Seeing Dr. Zhang following behind me, his expression instantly turned horrified. Mr. Shen, Dr. Zhang suddenly exclaimed loudly. I have something important to report. Shen Nanling frowned. What is it, young Master Shen? He asked me to falsify Madam's medical report. Dr. Zhang blurted out. He said if I didn't comply, he'd make sure I couldn't survive in the medical field. The corridor fell into a terrifying silence. Shen Nanling's face visibly darkened, while Shen Zhao turned ashen pale. What nonsense are you spouting? Shen Zhao roared, grabbing Dr. Zhang's collar violently. I don't even know you. Enough. Shen Nanling's sharp shout echoed through the corridor, startling several passing nurses who hurried away. We'll discuss this back at the company. He lowered his voice, though the anger remained evident. Dad, let me explain. Shen Zhao panicked. This man is slandering me. It must be Jiang Manman's doing. She's trying to drive a wedge between us. 4. Shen Nanling glared coldly at his son. Oh, then what are these? He snatched the photos from my hand and threw them in Shen Zhao's face. The photos scattered across the floor, clearly showing Shen Zhao's secret meetings with Dr. Zhang. The evidence was irrefutable. Shen Zhao's face turned from pale to ashen, then from ashen to red, finally settling on a despairing deathly pallor. He opened his mouth, but couldn't utter a single word. Return to the company immediately. Shen Nanling's voice was as cold as ice. Attorney Zhou is also there. We need to rediscuss the matter of your shares. Shen Zhao was thunderstruck, staggering back a step. Dad, you can't, now. Shen Nanling barked. Shen Zhao finally gave me a resentful glare before staggering away. I timely showed a concerned expression. Nanling, don't be too angry. Shen Zhao might have just had a momentary lapse of judgment. A momentary lapse, Shen Nanling sneered. He was trying to harm my child. He grasped my hand. Man, thank goodness you were alert. Otherwise, I leaned against his shoulder. I just happened to see them together and became more vigilant. As I looked up, I caught Dr. Zhang's relieved expression and smiled faintly at him. Dr. Zhang, thank you for exposing the truth. After the completion of Shen's new hospital, we will consider your position. Dr. Zhang froze, then quickly realized I was fulfilling my promise and repeatedly bowed. Thank you, madam. Thank you, madam. On the way back in the car, Shen Nanling held my hand tightly without letting go. The news of the quadruplets thrilled him beyond measure. While Shen Zhao's betrayal filled him with burning rage, these two extreme emotions intertwined on his face, forming a peculiar expression. Man, he suddenly said, starting today, you must not be left alone for 24 hours. I'll arrange 2 more bodyguards. I feigned surprise. Is that necessary? Shen Zhao is after all your son, precisely because he's my son that I understand him. Shen Nanling's voice carried unprecedented coldness. He's been spoiled since childhood. What he can't obtain, he'd rather destroy. I lowered my head to stroke my flat abdomen, masking the coldness in my eyes. Shen Nanling was right. Shen Zhao was indeed that kind of person. In my past life, when he couldn't have Su Ruoheng, he vented his anger on me and our unborn child. By the way, Shen Nanling changed the subject. Lawyer Zhou has already prepared the equity transfer documents. You just need to sign them this afternoon. I looked up, tears welling up in my eyes at just the right moment. Nanling, this is too generous. You deserve it, he said resolutely. The 10% is just the beginning. When the children are born, I'll transfer more shares to your name. His eyes shone with unwavering determination. The future of the Shen family rests on you and the children. The afternoon signing ceremony took place in the company's top-floor conference room. Lawyer Zhou explained the details of the share transfer thoroughly, while Shen Nanling held my hand the entire time, his face filled with pride. After signing, Shen Nanling publicly announced, starting today, Ms. Jiang Manman officially becomes a shareholder of Shen Group, holding 10% of the shares, and joins the board of directors. The executives present applauded in congratulations. Only Lin Jifeng's expression remained stiff, his eyes constantly darting towards Shen Zhao in the corner. Shen Zhao stood there, his face as gloomy as the sky before a storm. The documents in his hand crumpled from his grip. After the meeting concluded, Shen Nanlang convened a family gathering. Several key members of the Shen family sat around the long table, the atmosphere so tense you could wring water from it. Considering Shen Zhao's behavior today, Shen Nanlang got straight to the point. I'd decided to adjust his position and shares in the company. Shen Zhao abruptly looked up. Dad. We're reclaiming 3% of your 5% shares, leaving you with only 2%, Shen Nanlang said coldly. You'll retain your position as deputy director of the project department, but all major decisions must be signed off by Director Lin. Lin Jifeng visibly froze for a moment, never expecting to be called upon. I sneered inwardly. Shen Nanlang's move was brilliant, having Shen Zhao's trusted subordinate monitor him, appearing fair while driving a wedge between them. This isn't fair. Shen Zhao slammed the table and stood up. For the sake of one woman, you'd ruin your own son. Watch your words, Shen Nanlang barked sharply. That's your mother, carrying your younger siblings. She's not my mother, Shen Zhao screamed hysterically. She's just a fraud. Who knows whose bastards those children are? As soon as the words fell, Shen Nanlang had already slapped him across the face. With a sharp crack, Shen Zhao's face was knocked to the side, a trickle of blood seeping from the corner of his mouth. Get out, Shen Nanlang's voice was as cold as ice. If I hear such words again, you'll be thrown out of the Shen family. Shen Zhao covered his face, the hatred in his eyes almost materializing. He scanned the room, his gaze finally landing on me, sending chills down my spine. But in an instant, he reverted to being that aggrieved son again. Dad, I was wrong. His voice choked with sobs. I was just afraid of losing your love. Shen Nanlang's expression softened slightly. Seeing this, I immediately interjected softly. Nanlang, the child knows their mistake. Shen Zhao just had a momentary lapse in judgment. After all, suddenly gaining 4 younger siblings would make anyone feel unsettled. While these words seemed to plead for Shen Zhao's sake, each sentence struck a painful chord. Sure enough, Shen Nanlang's expression turned cold again. A 25-year-old acting so immature. Get out. Shen Zhao finally glared at me with resentment before slamming the door and leaving. The meeting ended hastily, with the Shen family members dispersing, each harboring their own thoughts. When I returned home in the evening, Shen Nanlang was still angry, drinking whiskey one glass after another. I walked over with a cup of warm milk and gently held his hand. Stop drinking. It's not good for your health. Shen Nanlang put down his glass, rubbing his temples wearily. Am I too much of a failure to have raised my son like this? It's not your fault. I leaned against his shoulder. Some people are just born, not quite right. Shen Nanlang suddenly looked up. What do you mean? I pretended to hesitate. I shouldn't say. Speak, Shen Nanlang commanded. While tidying up the study last time, I accidentally came across Shen Zhao's medical records. I whispered. The doctor diagnosed him with sociopathic tendencies. Shen Nanlang was thunderstruck. What? How come I didn't know about this? Perhaps his ex-wife hid it to spare you worry, I ventured cautiously. The records were concealed inside the dust jacket of Das Kapital, very well hidden. Shen Nanlang immediately stood up and rushed toward the study. I slowly followed, knowing he would find that meticulously forged medical report. In the previous life, Shen Zhao did indeed have psychological issues, but was never formally diagnosed. In this life, I'll make sure Shen Nanlang sees his son's true nature clearly. The sound of rummaging through drawers came from the study, followed by Shen Nanlang's curses. I stood at the doorway, watching his trembling hands holding that medical report, his face filled with shock and anguish. No wonder he's enjoyed abusing small animals since childhood, Shen Nanlang murmured to himself. I thought it was just typical boyish mischief. I walked over and embraced him. Don't be too upset. It's not too late to know now. We can hire the best psychologist. Shen Nanlang shook his head, a resolute glint flashing in his eyes. No, some people are born demons. From today onward, I won't show him any more mercy. I leaned against his chest, a cold smile curling at the corner of my lips. Shen Zhao, your good days are truly over. Late at night, I stood by the bedroom window, watching a sports car roar out of the Shen family's gates. It was Shen Zhao, heading off to vent his anger somewhere again. I gently touched my abdomen, feeling the 4 little lives growing inside. Shen Zhao, this is just the beginning, I whispered into the night. The pain you inflicted on me in our past life, I'll return it to you bit by bit. The phone vibrated with a message from the private detective. Target met secretly with Lin Jifeng at Nightfall Bar. Conversation recorded. Should I send it now? I replied. Not yet. Continue surveillance. Putting down the phone, I lay on the bed, sensing subtle changes within my body. 4 tiny lives were thriving inside me. They were my weapons of revenge, and my foundation for standing firm in the Shen family. Shen Zhao, no matter what you're plotting, you can't escape my notice. In this lifetime, I'll watch you walk step by step toward your own destruction. By the 4th month of pregnancy, my belly had visibly swollen, much larger than that of an average expectant mother. The burden of carrying quadruplets often left my back aching. But every time I touched my belly and felt the movements of those 4 little lives, all weariness melted into sweetness. The morning sunlight streamed through the curtains into the bedroom as I leaned against the headboard, flipping through the documents Shin Nanlang had left on the nightstand. It was a proposal about Shin Corporation's acquisition of a coastal resort. In my past life, this project caused significant losses to the Shin family due to fraudulent environmental assessments. Working so early, Shin Nanlang emerged from the bathroom, water still dripping from his hair. The 45-year-old man maintained an excellent physique, with well-defined abdominal muscles that made it hard to believe he was approaching the age of knowing his destiny. I waved the documents. There's a problem with this project. Shin Nanlang raised an eyebrow and sat on the edge of the bed. How so? This environmental assessment report. I pointed to one page. The data is too perfect, unrealistically perfect. I checked local forums where fishermen reported significantly worsening water quality in recent years, but the report makes no mention of it. Shin Nanlang frowned as he took the documents. Environmental matters are Lin Jifeng's responsibility. Director Lin might be too busy to notice the details, I said lightly, actually implying Lin Jifeng's dereliction of duty. In my past life, it was precisely him and Shin Zhao who jointly covered up this issue. Shin Nanlang pondered for a moment, then picked up his phone. I'll have a third party re-evaluate it. I smiled without speaking. Since the hospital incident last time, Shin Nanlang has grown increasingly trusting of my business instincts. Over the past month, several issues I accidentally discovered have successfully helped the Shin family avoid risks. Now, I've earned the nickname Lucky Star among the board of directors. My phone vibrated with a new message from the private investigator. Target had a heated argument with Su Ruoheng last night. Su Ruoheng left home and is currently staying in room 2806 at the Four Seasons Hotel. Had a male visitor at 2 a.m. I deleted the message, a slight smile playing at the corners of my mouth. The perfect marriage between Shin Zhao and Su Ruoheng finally collapsed. In their past life, Su Ruoheng was the white moonlight in Shin Zhao's heart, but in this life, she became his nightmare. How are you feeling today? Shin Nanlang adjusted his suit and leaned down to kiss my forehead. Pretty good. I stroked my belly. It's just that the little ones are too active. They kept kicking me awake last night. Shin Nanlang's large hand covered my abdomen. Just in time to feel a distinct fetal movement, his eyes instantly softened. So mischievous, just like you. No way, it must be like you, I said coquettishly, so domineering, never giving me a moment's peace. Shin Nanlang chuckled softly, kissed me again, and then left. Listening to the sound of his footsteps fading away, I picked up my phone and dialed a number. Dr. Lee, this is Jiang Manman. I'd like to reschedule next week's checkup. Yes, change it to Wednesday at 10 a.m. No. Please don't inform anyone else, including Mr. Shen. I want to surprise him. After hanging up, I slowly got out of bed to wash up. In the mirror, though my belly was protruding, my limbs remained slender, and my face glowed with that pregnancy radiance. When I was pregnant with Shin Zhao's child in my past life, I suffered from severe morning sickness, but this time it's surprisingly smooth with hardly any nausea. When I went downstairs for breakfast, the servant's attitude became even more respectful than before. Ever since I became a shareholder of Shin Corporation, even the usually arrogant housekeeper Lin has learned to bow his head. Madam, your freshly squeezed orange juice. He carefully placed the glass in front of me. I nodded in thanks and casually flipped open today's financial newspaper. The front page prominently featured news of Shin Group's successful acquisition of a medical equipment company, accompanied by a photo of Shin Nanlang looking triumphant. This report was supposed to appear a year later, but has now been advanced due to my intervention. While having breakfast, the doorbell rang. Moments later, Xiaohe rushed in nervously. Madam, Miss Su's mother is here, asking to see you. I raised an eyebrow. Show her in, Mrs. Su stormed into the dining room with an angry expression, her well-maintained face filled with fury. Jiang Manman, what do you mean by this? Why are you spreading rumors to ruin my daughter's reputation? I wiped my mouth leisurely. Madam Su, I don't understand what you're talking about. Stop playing dumb. Mother Su slammed the table. What's the meaning of those photos? Ruoheng with different men. Those kinds of photos are circulating throughout the entire social circle now. I feigned surprise. What photos? I truly don't know. After a pause, but, a few days ago, a friend did mention seeing Miss Su at nightfall with a gentleman, being very intimate. I even defended her, saying it must be a misunderstanding. Mother Sue's face turned alternately pale and livid. You, Madam Sue. My tone turned cold. What your daughter has done has nothing to do with me. Instead of questioning me, you'd do better to discipline your daughter properly. After all, she's still the Shin family's daughter-in-law. My stepmother was left speechless by my retort. Finally throwing out an angry "we'll see" before slamming the door and leaving, I picked up my phone and sent a message to the private investigator. The photos were spread well. The final payment has been made. Putting down the phone, I happily finished my orange juice. In her past life, Su Ruohang was a socialite with a chaotic private life that was never exposed. In this lifetime, I'll make Shin Zhao taste the bitterness of being a cuckold, letting everyone know what kind of woman he married. In the afternoon, I went to the headquarters of Shin Corporation as planned. Since getting pregnant, Shin Nanling specially arranged a private office for me next to the CEO's office, making it convenient for me to rest anytime. Shortly after sitting down, Lin Jifeng knocked and entered, wearing an artificial smile. Chairman Jiang, here's the environmental assessment for the new project. Please review it. I took the documents and pretended to read through them carefully. This new evaluation is clearly much more rigorous than the previous one. It seems my reminder this morning had an effect. Well done. I closed the file. Director Lin has worked hard. Lin Jifeng forced a stiff smile. It's my duty. He hesitated, then added that Shin Zhao hasn't been in good spirits lately. I hope Chairman Jiang won't take it to heart. I raised an eyebrow. Director Lin and Shin Zhao are quite close. Lin Jifeng's forehead beaded with sweat. Just colleagues. Showing some concern, is that so? I smiled. Then please convey to him that as his stepmother, I'm deeply concerned about his physical and mental well-being. If he needs a psychiatrist, the Shin family can arrange for the best. Lin Jifeng nodded repeatedly before hastily retreating from the office. I let out a cold laugh and picked up my phone to check the surveillance app. This software was connected to the bugs I had installed in Shin Nanling's study and Shin Zhao's apartment, a masterpiece from the private detective. Sure enough, half an hour later, Lin Jifeng and Shin Zhao met at a cafe. The bugs clearly transmitted their conversation. That bitch is getting suspicious. Shin Zhao's voice was filled with resentment. She must know about the tricks we played with the environmental assessment. Calm down, Lin Jifeng said in a hushed tone. The most important thing now is not to alert the enemy. When she goes into labor, I've already made arrangements at the hospital. Wait even longer, Shin Zhao nearly shouted. She's already flaunting my father's child in the boardroom. If we wait a few more months, will there even be a place for me in the Shin family? Keep your voice down, Lin Jifeng warned. The plan is set. Accidents in the delivery room are all too common. Massive hemorrhage, amniotic fluid embolism. Any one of them could take her life. When the time comes and your father is overcome with grief, who else can he rely on to run the company but you? My blood ran cold in an instant. In my past life, Shin Zhao only kicked me while drunk, causing a miscarriage. But in this life they actually planned to take my life directly. Forcing myself to stay calm, I continued eavesdropping. What about those 4 bastards? Shin Zhao asked through gritted teeth. Let's solve this together. Lin Jifeng's voice was so cold it didn't sound human. Premature babies are too fragile. It's normal for accidents to happen. I turned off the surveillance software, my hands instinctively covering my abdomen. Although I had anticipated Shin Zhao's retaliation, I never imagined he could be this vicious. After taking several deep breaths, I dialed the private investigator's number. I need you to look into a few people. Yes, from the obstetrics department of Renha Hospital. Especially those connected to Li Jifeng. Hanging up the phone, I stood by the floor-to-ceiling window overlooking the city. The sunlight remains brilliant, pedestrians as insignificant as ants. At this height, everything is under control, including Shin Zhao's murder plan, which he thought was well concealed. Returning home in the evening, Shin Nanling had unusually come back early and was handling documents in the study, carrying a cup of hot milk. I walked in and found him reviewing a medical report. What is this? I asked curiously. Shin Nanling quickly closed the file. Nothing. Just routine physical exam reports. He changed the subject. Were the babies well behaved today? Pretending not to notice his odd behavior, I smiled and replied, quite well, just a little hungry. I stroked my belly. Nanling, I want to switch to a different hospital for delivery. Shin Nanling frowned. What's wrong? Isn't Renha the best? It is the best. But, I hesitated. I heard several medical staff recently resigned, worrying it might affect service quality, and, I lowered my voice. I heard Shin Zhao and Lin Jifeng have connections at Renha. Shin Nanling's eyes turned sharp. What did they do? There's no solid evidence. I shook my head. It's just a gut feeling. Maybe it's just pregnancy anxiety. Shin Nanling pondered for a moment before picking up his phone. I'll contact my friends in the States to arrange a top-tier obstetrics team. It'll be safer to deliver at home. I leaned against his shoulder. I'll follow your lead. That's exactly what I wanted. Giving birth at home with full control over the medical team will completely thwart Shin Zhao's scheme. 3 days later, the private investigator sent a comprehensive report. Renha Hospital indeed had 2 medical staff members with financial dealings with Lin Jifeng, including an anesthesiologist and a nurse. More shockingly, the report revealed that Shin Zhao recently purchased a colorless, odorless drug capable of causing postpartum hemorrhage. I printed out the report and locked it in the safe. These will be powerful weapons against Shin Zhao in the future, but now is not the time to expose them. I'll wait until he actually makes his move, then catch him red-handed. Shin Zhao made a rare appearance at the weekend family dinner. Ever since his shares were reduced, he rarely appeared at family gatherings. Today was an exception. He even smiled at me, if that twisted expression could be called a smile. Aunt Jiang, he deliberately used honorifics. I heard you changed your medical team. I smiled. Yes, your father wasn't at ease, so he specially brought in a team from the States. Shin Zhao's lips twitched slightly. Then, where will the production take place? At home, Shin Nanling interjected. We've already prepared a delivery room, more comfortable and safer than a hospital. I noticed Shin Zhao's hands trembling slightly, but he quickly regained control. That's wonderful. I'm really looking forward to the birth of my younger siblings. Thank you for your concern, I said softly. By the way, why didn't Miss Su come? Shin Zhao's face darkened instantly. She isn't feeling well. I feigned concern. Shall we call the family doctor? Pregnant women shouldn't take risks. Pregnant? Shin Nanling looked at me in surprise. Su Ruohang is pregnant. Shin Zhao's face turned deathly pale. No, that's not. She's just... I heard she went to the gynecology department last week, I said softly. Thought there might be good news. Shin Nanling frowned. Shin Zhao, what's really going on? Cold sweat broke out on Shin Zhao's forehead. Just, routine checkup. I tactfully changed the subject. Alright, let's eat first. Pregnancy topics are making the young ones uncomfortable. Undercurrents surged beneath the dining table. Shin Zhao's gaze kept drifting toward me, filled with venom and fear. He must be worried about the failure of the production plan, and even more terrified that Su Ruohang's scandal would be exposed. After dinner, Shin Nanling was called away by a phone call. I excused myself due to pregnancy fatigue to rest in my room, but was intercepted by Shin Zhao at the staircase corner. What do you know? He demanded in a hushed voice, his eyes glinting dangerously. I feigned confusion. What do you mean? Stop playing dumb. He grabbed my wrist abruptly. About Ruohang, and let go of my wife. The bodyguard's voice came from behind, and the next second Shin Zhao was pinned against the wall, rubbing my wrist. I glared coldly at him. Shin Zhao, what do you think you're doing? You'll regret this. Jiang Man, Shin Zhao said through gritted teeth. I swear, you'll regret this. The bodyguard looked at me, awaiting instructions. I shook my head. Let him go. Shin Zhao, I suggest you calm down. Acting on impulse is the devil's work. Shin Zhao straightened his clothes, gave me one last glare, then turned and left. Watching his unsteady retreating figure, I knew he had reached the end of his rope, and a cornered beast is often the most dangerous. Back in the bedroom, I locked the door and retrieved a compact self-defense stun gun from under my pillow, given to me by the private investigator. Powerful enough to incapacitate a grown man. Shin Zhao's madness exceeded expectations. I needed to be even more cautious. Outside the window, the setting sun dyed the Shin family estate blood red. I gently caressed my swollen belly, feeling the movements of the 4 little lives inside. Don't be afraid, Mommy will protect you, I whispered in promise. No one can harm us. The chessboard of revenge has reached its critical moment. Shin Zhao's killing intent has surfaced, and my counterattack has only just begun. In the early morning when my pregnancy had just reached 32 weeks, a sharp pain jolted me awake from sleep. My hand instinctively reached for my abdomen, and my palm immediately sensed an unusual tightness, contractions, coming fast and intense. Nanling. I shook my husband awake beside me, my voice trembling with pain. I think the baby's coming. Shin Nanling snapped awake instantly and pressed the emergency call button by the bed. The entire Shin family estate lit up as bright as day, the alarm startling everyone awake. 2 weeks ahead of the due date, Shin Nanling helped me get dressed while issuing commands through the intercom. Activate the emergency plan immediately. Contact the medical team. I clenched my teeth, cold sweat beading on my forehead. Don't be afraid. The American medical team will arrive within 20 minutes. Shin Nanling picked me up and strode toward the prepared home delivery room. Everything will go smoothly. I gripped his collar tightly, suddenly remembering something. Wait, your phone. Bring it. Shin Nanling was taken aback, but still turned around to grab his phone. I breathed a sigh of relief. In our previous life, he forgot his phone when going out today and missed an important call, causing massive losses for the company. In this life, I must ensure he can always answer that call. The delivery room was fully prepared, with suitable temperature and complete equipment. It looked no different from a high-end hospital's delivery room. Shen Nanling carefully placed me on the bed, and nurses immediately surrounded me to conduct examinations. The cervix is already dilated to 4 centimeters. Delivery must begin immediately, announced Chief Obstetrician Catherine after the examination. The risk of premature birth for quadruplets is very high. We need to prepare the NICU right away. Shen Nanling's expression turned grave. Do everything possible to ensure both mother and children are safe. Another wave of contractions hit, the pain so intense my vision darkened, yet I still forced myself to stay conscious. Something's wrong. This is all too wrong. With my constitution, I shouldn't be going into labor this early. Nanling. I grasped his hand with difficulty. Check. Everyone who entered the manor today, especially the medical team. Shen Nanling frowned. You suspect? Please. The veins on my forehead bulged. For the children's sake, Shen Nanling immediately turned and ordered the head of security, lock down the manor, verify everyone's identity, especially the newly arrived medical staff. The security captain acknowledged the order and left. I felt slightly relieved, but the pain in my abdomen grew increasingly intense, almost making it impossible to think. Madam, push, we can already see the first baby's head. Dr. Catherine encouraged. I clenched my teeth and mustered all my strength. After a tearing pain, the first baby's cry rang out. It's a boy, the nurse announced excitedly, though premature. His cry is strong. I smiled weakly, but before I could rejoice, the next wave of contractions came. Quadruplets mean going through labor 4 times, and my physical strength is rapidly draining away. The second baby is out too, and it's another boy. At that very moment, a commotion erupted outside the door. The head bodyguard rushed in with an unusually grim expression. Mr. Shen, we found an imposter nurse in the changing room. She was carrying syringes and unidentified drugs. Shen Nanling's expression changed abruptly. Find out clearly who was behind this. They've already confessed. It was. The head bodyguard hesitated and glanced at me. It was young Master Shen Zhao, even though I had anticipated it. This news still sent a tremor through my heart. Shen Zhao has indeed made his move. And more viciously than in the previous life. Not an impulsive act while drunk, but a carefully planned murder. That unfilial son. Shen Nanling was furious and turned to rush out. Wait, I grabbed his hand with all my strength. There are still 2 children, I need you here. Shen Nanling struggled for a moment before finally nodding. I'll handle things here first. That unfilial brat won't get far. The production continued, but the atmosphere had clearly grown much tenser. Bodyguards stood ready outside the delivery room. Even medical staff were under close surveillance. Exhausted as I was, I dared not relax for a second. The third child, a girl. Just as the third baby was born, Shen Nanling's phone suddenly rang. He was about to hang up, but his expression changed slightly upon seeing the number. It's an emergency contact from the Swiss bank. Answer, I said weakly. It's important. Shen Nanling gave me a puzzled look but still answered the call. Hello, what? His expression shifted from shock to anger. Freeze that account immediately. I'll send someone to handle it right away. After hanging up, Shen Nanling's face darkened ominously. Shen Zhao is transferring overseas assets and even forged my signature. He gritted his teeth. He's preparing to flee. I closed my eyes, sneering inwardly. Shen Zhao, you've truly been driven to desperate measures. The last baby, a girl. Congratulations. 2 boys and 2 girls, a perfect combination. Announced Dr. Catherine. The 4 little lives were carefully placed beside me, premature but crying loudly, all appearing quite healthy. I gently touched their wrinkled little faces as tears blurred my vision. The children I failed to protect in my past life have finally been born safely in this one. Nanling, let's give the children names, I said softly. Shen Nanling looked at the 4 little lives, the anger in his eyes slightly subsiding. The eldest will be Shen Rui, the second Shen Jia, the third Shen Yu, and the youngest Shen Lin. Beautiful, I smiled, then suddenly remembered something. By the way, you should head to the office. The Swiss bank matter needs your personal attention. Shen Nanling hesitated, looking at me and the children. But you all, we're safe with the bodyguards and medical team here. I insisted. The company matters are more important. Shen Nanling finally nodded. I'll return as soon as possible. He kissed my forehead and the children's before hurrying off. I knew what he would face by leaving. The car accident arranged by Shen Zhao. In this life, I will not only save myself and the children, but also Shen Nanling. After confirming Shin Nanling had left, I asked the nurse to take the children to rest in the adjacent nursery, keeping only the most trusted security captain with me, Captain Zhang. I forced myself to stay awake. Mr. Shin is in danger. Shin Zhao has arranged a car accident on his way to the company. Captain Zhang's face turned pale. I'll notify Mr. Shin immediately. No, don't alert the enemy. I shook my head. Take a few trustworthy men and set up an ambush at that road section in advance. Remember, it's a blue truck with license plate ending in 37. Captain Zhang looked at me in shock. Madam, how did you know? No time to explain, I said weakly but firmly. You must ensure Mr. Shin's safety. After catching the perpetrator, send them directly to the police station. Don't let Shin Zhao know. Captain Zhang accepted the order and left. I let out a long sigh, finally allowing myself to close my eyes for a brief rest. When I woke again, Shin Nanlang was sitting by the bed. His face terrifyingly grim. Seeing me open my eyes, he immediately grasped my hand. Man, you're awake. Are the children okay? My voice was hoarse. They're fine, all under observation in incubators, but the doctor says they're perfectly healthy. Shin Nanlang forced a smile, though the fury in his eyes was unmistakable. Captain Zhang caught the truck driver. He's already confessed that Shin Zhao was behind this. I feigned shock. What? He wanted to kill you, not just me. Shin Nanlang's voice was cold as ice. He planned to eliminate both of us today, then flee abroad with the embezzled assets. I closed my eyes as tears streamed down. These tears were half genuine, half feigned, for Shin Zhao's cruelty, and for the joy of the plan's success. Man, I owe you my life. Shin Nanlang gripped my hand tightly. If you hadn't reminded me to bring my phone, if you hadn't sensed the danger, what about Shin Zhao? I asked softly. He ran, but he won't get far. Shin Nanlang sneered. I've frozen all his accounts and issued a citywide manhunt. He won't escape. I nodded and said no more. Shin Zhao's fate was already sealed. 3 days later, when I could barely manage to walk, the first thing I did was visit the children. In the nursery, 4 little babies lay in incubators, their tiny hands and feet moving occasionally, so adorable it could melt your heart. They're so beautiful. Dr. Catherine stood beside me, though premature. All their vitals are excellent. They can leave the incubators after 1 more week of observation. I gently touched the incubator's glass, feeling an unprecedented surge of protectiveness in my heart. These 4 little lives are my motivation for revenge, and also the hope for my new life. Madam, Captain Zhang hurried over. We have news about Shin Zhao. I followed Captain Zhang into the corridor. Speak. He was caught at the docks trying to stow away to Southeast Asia, Captain Zhang whispered. Mr. Shin has already had him committed to a psychiatric hospital, claiming antisocial personality disorder requiring compulsory treatment. I raised an eyebrow. A mental hospital. That's unexpected, but upon closer thought, it's even crueler than prison. A person who believes they're sane being locked in a psychiatric ward, forcibly injected with medication every day, undergoing treatment. What about Su Ruohang? I asked. Filed for divorce yesterday and ran off with whatever money she could take, Captain Zhang said with disdain. I heard she was indeed pregnant, but the child wasn't Shin Zhao's. 5. I let out a light chuckle. In her past life, Su Ruohang was the white moonlight in Shin Zhao's heart, but in this life, she became the last straw that broke him. Fate can be truly ironic at times. Returning to the hospital room, Shin Nanlang was waiting for me, holding a document in his hand. Man. He said with a serious expression, I've revised the will. From today onward, you own 45% of Shin Corporation's shares, making you the largest shareholder. I looked at him in shock. It's too much. This is what you deserve. Shin Nanlang held my hand. You've not only secured the Shin family's future, but also saved my life twice. He paused. As for Shin Zhao, the 2% shares under his name have been reclaimed. From now on, he'll only receive basic living expenses each month. Supervised by a trust fund, I leaned against his shoulder, hiding the coldness in my eyes. Shin Zhao, you've finally lost everything. The mental asylum will be your final destination, just like my past life, trapped in a hopeless marriage, only to die miserably beneath your feet. A week later, the children were discharged from the incubators and brought back to the Shin family estate. Shin Nanlang hired 4 professional maternity nurses to care for them around the clock. As for me, I gradually began taking over the operations of the Shin Group. Sitting in Shin Nanlang's former seat, I flipped through the documents, my lips curling into an unconscious smile. In my past life, I was merely a breeding tool to be used, but in this life, I've become the helmsman of this business empire. My phone vibrated. A message from the private investigator. Subject's 3rd day in psychiatric hospital. Refuses to admit illness, forcibly administered sedatives. Special care arranged per your request, I replied. Continue observing and report regularly. Putting down my phone, I walked to the floor-to-ceiling window and looked down at the panoramic view of the city. Sunlight streamed through the glass, warm and bright upon me. The 4 children were sleeping peacefully in the nursery downstairs. Shen Nanling obeyed my every word, and Xin Zhao was living a fate worse than death in the mental hospital. The taste of revenge is sweeter than imagined. Madam, the secretary knocked and entered. Here are today's meeting minutes for your review. I took the document and gracefully signed my name. Jiang Manman, once that pitiful woman who was deceived, exploited, and murdered, has now risen from the ashes like a phoenix. By the way, I called out to the secretary who was about to leave. Please contact the person in charge of the maternal and child brand Yuan Man for me. I'd like to discuss potential collaboration. The secretary nodded and left. This is my newly invested maternal and child brand, named after the homophonic combination of mine and Shen Nanling's names, also symbolizing my rebirth, a fulfilled life, a fulfilled revenge. In the evening, I was strolling in the garden holding my youngest daughter Shen Lin when Shen Nanling approached and gently put his arm around my shoulder. Tired? I'm not tired, I smiled, looking at the children. All weariness disappears. Shen Nanling kissed the top of my head. Thank you, Man. Thank you for giving me all this. I leaned against his chest, watching the sunset turn the Shen family estate golden. For children, a husband who loves me, supreme power and wealth, all these were bought with the blood and tears of my past life. Shen Zhao, have you ever regretted that kick while in the mental hospital? The quadruplets 100-day celebration was held at the Shen family manor, with nearly all the business elite in attendance, wearing a custom champagne-colored gown. I stood at the center of the banquet hall accepting congratulations from everyone. My abdomen had regained its flatness, even becoming more toned than before pregnancy, thanks to strict daily postpartum recovery training. Chairman Jiang, congratulations, all 4 babies are healthy and beautiful. What a blessing. A female jewelry company owner warmly grasped my hand, saying, we've specially prepared a set from our new infant collection for each of your 4 little treasures. I smiled in gratitude, my peripheral vision catching Shen Nanling standing not far away. He was holding their youngest daughter Shen Lin, his face brimming with unconcealable pride. Having a child at 45 is already rare, but having 4 healthy children at once has made him a legend among his friends. In a corner of the banquet hall, 4 nannies each held a child, surrounded by guests eager to share in the joy. I walked over and gently touched each child's little face. The eldest, Shen Rui, was sound asleep. The second, Shen Jia, was wide-eyed and looking around. The third, Shen Yu, and the 4th, Shen Lin, were awake angels, neither crying nor fussing. Madam, there's a phone call for you. The butler, Uncle Lin, approached and handed me the phone. Ever since he was caught embezzling last time, this old butler's attitude has become much more respectful. The voice on the phone was the private detective, Ms. Jiang. Shen Zhao was released from the mental hospital yesterday. I raised an eyebrow. Oh, why? The diagnosis said he was in stable condition, and since Su Ruoheng left him some money during the divorce, he paid the bail. The detective paused. But the moment he left the hospital, someone was already tailing him. Who? A few rich kids he used to bully. The detective's voice carried a hint of schadenfreude. I heard he was forced to drink until he had a stomach hemorrhage at a bar last night, and this morning loan sharks came after him. Now he's hiding in a cheap motel in the east side of town. The corner of my mouth lifted slightly. Keep watching him. Report back at any time. Hanging up the phone, I gazed at the crowd mingling with glasses in hand in the banquet hall. 3 months ago, Xin Zhao was still the eldest young master of the Shen family, basking in glory. Now he's become a stray dog, hunted by everyone. Karma is indeed relentless. Man, Shen Nanling approached, holding Shen Lin in one arm while handing me a document with the other. Lawyer Zhou has brought the equity transfer agreement. You just need to sign it. I opened the document. 45% of Shen Group's shares were officially transferred under my name. This means I have not only become the largest shareholder of the group, but also legally the true mistress of the Shen family. Thank you. I signed my name and looked up to see the tenderness flickering in Shen Nanling's eyes. In this lifetime, he has indeed given me everything I wanted: status, wealth, children, and respect. By the way, Shen Nanling lowered his voice. Xin Zhao has been released. I feigned surprise. Really? What did the doctor say? They said he's no longer aggressive and can reintegrate into society. Shen Nanling sneered. I've got people watching him. If he steps out of line again, he'll be sent back immediately. I nodded and said no more. Xin Zhao was no longer a threat, a discarded, divorced, penniless wretch whose life was worse than death. After the banquet, I convened my first board meeting as the largest shareholder. In the conference room, The executives who once ignored me were now showing me utmost respect. Regarding the development plan for the Perfect Circle maternal infant brand, I opened the folder. I believe we should increase online marketing efforts while also opening physical experience stores. Lin Jifeng, once Xinjiao's right-hand man, now my trusted assistant, immediately agreed. Chairman Zhang's insight is excellent. Our marketing department has already prepared a detailed proposal. After the meeting ended, I stayed alone in the office, turned on my computer, and checked the latest photos sent by the private investigator. Xin Zhao was curled up on a bed in a shabby hotel, his face sallow and his eyes sunken, bearing no resemblance to the former eldest son of the Xin family. The next photo was even more intriguing. Su Ruoheng was holding a young man's arm as they entered a high-end jewelry store. Her belly was slightly rounded, clearly showing she was several months pregnant. I put down my phone as sunlight streamed through the glass, warm and bright upon me. The taste of revenge is sweeter than imagined. Coming home in the evening, the children had just finished bathing, 4 little faces rosy and glowing, carrying the sweet scent of milk. I kissed each of them in turn, feeling an unprecedented sense of fulfillment welling up in my heart. Madam, the nanny said softly, Mr. Shen called to say he has a business dinner tonight and won't be coming home for the meal. I nodded, not particularly surprised. Ever since the children were born, Shen Nanling has trusted me more and given me greater personal freedom. This kind of respectful companionship actually feels more comfortable to me than forced intimacy, for children were playing under the care of a professional nanny. When they saw me enter, Shen Yu and Shen Lin babbled and reached out their hands asking to be held. I picked up my 2 daughters and gently rocked them. The sunlight streaming through the window bathed us in warmth and tranquility. In the afternoon, I visited the first physical store of the Perfect Circle maternal and infant brand. The store is spacious and bright, with warm and elegant decor that reflects my pursuit of quality in every detail. Chairman Jiang, the store manager, greeted warmly. In just 1 week since opening, sales have already tripled our expectations. I smiled as I inspected the store, occasionally picking up products to examine them. This brand carries my love for my 4 children and embodies my philosophy as a mother. Back in the car, the phone rang again. It was Shen Nanlang. Man, just got word that Xin Zhao died in the hospital. I gripped the phone tightly. What happened? Alcohol poisoning combined with gastric hemorrhage. Couldn't be saved. Shen Nanlang's voice sounded weary. The police investigated. It was indeed an accident. I remained silent for a moment. Should we arrange a funeral? No need. Shen Nanlang said coldly. He ceased to be part of the Shen family long ago. Hanging up the phone, I gazed out the window. Xin Zhao died, just like that, quietly passing away in the hospital without even a proper funeral. In my past life, he caused the death of me and my unborn child. In this life, he ended up alone and destitute. What goes around comes around. Retribution is inevitable. That evening, Shen Nanlang returned unusually early, holding a bottle of red wine. Care for a drink? He shook the bottle. Let's celebrate. I raised an eyebrow. Celebrating what? A new life. Shen Nanlang poured 2 glasses of wine and handed me one. Xin Zhao is dead. Our child is growing up healthy. Our careers are thriving. Isn't that worth celebrating? I took the glass and lightly clinked it with his. It is. After several rounds of drinks, Shen Nanlang's gaze softened. Man, thank you for giving me all this. I smiled without speaking. He would never know that my original intention in marrying him was revenge, but now, I truly appreciate him for giving me a new life. By the way, Shen Nanlang suddenly said, I want to entrust more of the company's business to you. You have a business acumen far superior to my old subordinates. I raised an eyebrow. Not afraid I'll undermine your authority, would you? Shen Nanlang retorted, a peculiar glint flashing in his eyes. We locked eyes for a moment, then smiled simultaneously. He knew my capabilities. I understood his boundaries. This unspoken understanding is stronger than love. Sure. I raised my glass to a pleasant cooperation. Late at night, I stood by the bedroom window, gazing at the Shen family estate under the moonlight. In my past life, this place was my nightmare, but in this life, it has become my kingdom. For children, supreme power, immense wealth. I've obtained everything I desired. I gently caressed my abdomen, where 4 little lives once grew, though flat now, it forever bears the mark of motherhood. Turning to look at the sleeping Shen Nanlang on the bed, I smile faintly. In this life, I've become exactly who I wanted to be, powerful, independent, and inviolable, revenge fulfilled, life complete.